rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The one obvious thing for the agenda, I didn't hear back from my email. We did get a draft fracking law Monday. Is that something that you wanted to add? Anyone wanted tonight, or should we just put it on next week's when we make the agenda tomorrow?
Isn't it off?
Well, we hadn't. Did we actually?
It's just not on.
Oh, okay. You know what? That was not going to be on the agenda. That's what it was, because we didn't have anything.
Okay, so let's just keep it on.
All right. Let's see. You might have an old copy of the.
I think Katie gave us a new one.
Yeah, there's fracking's not on the agenda.
Oh, this is the fracking one.
That's what I'm talking about. Stuart, you and Ariana are the ones spearheading this. Is it?
Well, I don't know if every.
I mean, I read it. I'm not going to write anything up or make comments or anything.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem was we hadn't had it in earlier, but I assume that everyone made their comments by the 25th. I did to him, so I don't know.
Well, no, this is the new one that he was supposed to. He wrote supposedly to relate the other three.
I mean, is he
And he sent
now
that
have
to.
one law for both put together?
Yeah, that was, and that's what we got Mondays. But clearly, we're not all on the same page on this one. So, is it all right if we just do it in a week? We'll get the right. You and Ariana can make sure Katie has the right fracking law.
Okay.
For discussion.
All right.
Is that anyone object?
No,
Okay.
we're gonna put it on the workshop.
Yeah, let's put it on.
Our workshop's getting very full.
Yeah, it is.
Are we thinking that in the workshop, if everybody's cool with it, then we'll put it, we might schedule a public hearing?
Thank you.
We
Yeah,
get the
that's what I
workshop
was
if we
doing.
like it at that point.
Like that.
So I mean, that can be done,
Why don't we
right?
just do that? Yeah.
Because we got different fracking laws, we're gonna put it on the agenda for a week hence. The new law, which we got it clear too, that they mixed all the laws
The
together.
moratorium.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll hopefully then everyone's comments will be in so that we can,
I've looked at it and I don't have any.
yeah, so we can just put it on for final check that this is everything we want and
I
put
mean,
it out for a
I
public hearing.
looked through it and I was happy with what is going on here, but it wasn't exactly what we asked for.
And you haven't read it yet, right, Stuart?
Well, I read the one that I sent to him, but if he adjusted it, so
Then you haven't read it yet.
I think if it's not everything we asked for, then we ought to look at it again.
Okay.
But
So it's
let's plan that if anyone has further comments
What we
that
asked
a
for.
week from now,
I mean, we
with the
asked for
intent,
3
if
separate laws.
everything's ironed out, that we'll hopefully be able to schedule a public hearing a week from today for whenever the first public
I
hearing.
forgot our legal fees.
And I guess so. All right, don't forget. I guess I was asking Stuart if one of the two of you could just make sure Katie has whatever we need to double check that she has the right thing.
About something.
I guess there was confusion for which law we were looking at. So.
Well, there was hard copies given to everybody.
Oh, then we're fine.
And
Originally, the idea was that we had a law on the table based on one theory, and then we presented material to have a second law, which is on another theory, and they didn't necessarily have to be put together. They just
Into one
could be.
law.
They didn't have to be. They could just be two separate laws on two separate theories, and
we just wanted to do it all at once.
just pass both of the laws at the same time. If it's that way, if it's all in one law and it works, that's fine. I just that wasn't necessarily the way it was presented initially.
Well, you had asked that the three be put together as one.
No.
I had asked that the three be considered, the three theories, not necessarily be put into one law. And I think that the road preservation one, I think we thought that perhaps, could be put off, but the other two theories were important. The one that was initially there was no reason not to pass it, and the second one about bans in the zoning ordinance was, we thought, really important, because that's the one that's been enforceable so far.
So
And
do
of
you
course-
wanna do it as two separate laws?
Well, look, hold on, let me
I
stop
think
you
we
one
should
here.
just
I'm
come
sorry,
a week from now and have whatever it is on the table.
Okay,
We
because
don't
we're
have to
still
do it
approving
now.
the agenda and haven't even started the meeting. I'd like to,
Right, so-
rather than have the conversation, about the fracking, that is acceptable to everyone?
They're
You
two-
guys will check? It's the one that Joe sent on Monday is the one we're putting on the agenda.
And we're not gonna talk about this tonight because not everybody has read it.
Correct.
As long as it's on the agenda and it's the intent to act, if we're in accord, to set a public hearing a week from now, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, Ariane, if you have another, I mean,
I mean, I'm
We're all
not gonna
making a
make
decision together right
everybody
here.
do something that they haven't been informed on.
I've read it.
You know, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with, taking some kind of action tonight. But I don't want to force anybody into that if there's something that people feel like they really want to, take.
And Joe's reviewed them and. What do you wanna do?
come to a decision, whatever we.
All right, I'm gonna move, we set a public hearing on them.
That's.
You don't wanna do that?
No,
What?
that's
Okay.
we'll have a longer conversation.
Well,
Because I have
then-
some serious concerns
Oh.
about the law that was written.
If we're
Then
not gonna,
let's put it on the agenda for next week.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
that's the question. Are we talking about it tonight or in a week? And we've already been talking about it for half an hour. So,
Next week.
okay, any objections next week?
okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, any other additions to the agenda?
There are two that don't belong in executive session that we should do in public session.
Okay. Other than that, all right, I'll move to accept the agenda.
Second,
All in favor?
Alright,
Aye.
Brian?
That's my
Oh. All right, public comment. Anyone here to comment? Mark?
You decided now to put off till next week, public hearing on the draft law against fracking?
Discussion of the draft law.
discussion, not the public hearing.
Then, okay, my concern is, I don't know if it should be a concern, but all the literature that I read uses high volume slip water, hydrofracking, and horizontal drilling. Whereas in your title of the local law, you use it as, you refer to it, I'm assuming, all that verbiage there, moratorium on prohibition of gas and petroleum, et cetera. So I don't know if you need to say that. Is my point.
Well, we can,
Yeah, it's
we'll be
so far
discussing the
as-
details of the law next week, if you wanna find
Right,
out
okay.
then. Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Rosa?
I just wanted to ask you, I went to the website, but I kind of couldn't find it. Is there a way that we could see what you'll be talking about next week?
Yeah, it'll be in the
Yeah.
agenda packets, posted on the website tomorrow.
Part-
I'm sorry, Friday.
Friday,
Close of
okay.
business.
Part of the problem is when we received this, the packets had been already made and posted, because we got it Monday, was it
We
when we
got- I
got
think
this?
we got it Monday.
And so that's why it wasn't included in it.
Okay.
We also didn't know if we were getting it at all. We didn't know it was coming Monday.
So next week is just a discussion, not a public hearing, but a discussion. And then if any of us want to see it, can go onto the website as of Friday and
Mhm.
also read it and bring up any of those concerns with you when you have the discussion next week.
Right.
Okay, great, thank you.
Because next week is the first time we'll be publicly discussing the draft that we have.
Okay.
So that's when we kind of, we like this, we don't like this, change this, don't change that. And then once we're comfortable with a draft, that's what then we set the public hearing.
Okay,
So that we got that first step.
right,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Aaron?
Yeah, I didn't know if you guys moved the agenda around, and just want to say I'm interested in number 4, just because it's.
No, for you, we won't.
Yeah, but for me, I was wondering if you did.
Not yet, we haven't. We haven't gotten to that part.
What that means, possible streaming.
Let them wait. Yes.
I don't have a copy of the agenda, but I was wondering if you guys would have time to talk to me about, me joining the Shade Tree Commission. I emailed.
Are you Zoe?
Yes.
We're gonna interview you.
Okay.
And we'll get you in and out of here soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other public comment? No? All right. Any announcements?
I have a few. The revolving loan committee will have its second meeting here on Wednesday, September 19th at 6 p.m. For the consolidation study, the Public Outreach Committee will have its third meeting here on September 27th at 6 p.m. And I guess the other thing I wanted to mention, maybe you'll mention it, is that Ariana and I were tabling today at SUNY New Paltz. Yesterday, and we'll do it tomorrow again at a different organization for Team New Paltz. So, and that seemed to go very well. And I think it was a good idea to have people from the village government there. A lot of these students were freshmen and were gung-ho, and that's a good thing.
Excellent.
Good. Any other announcements?
Yeah, I guess I wanted to say that we went to Town Gown this morning, and I guess there's my notebook. A couple of the things I want to talk about. One thing that I found exciting is the support for local internships and local collaboration between the campus and the community. Last May, I think it was May, I was at the Town Gown meeting as well. I basically just asked the question, how do we get more student internships in the community and have more collaboration? And today, they gave out these note cards basically that say, hiring a SUNY New Paltz student is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 3 simple steps for establishing an internship. And then it basically tells you exactly how to go about it and who to contact. Oh yeah, absolutely, please take one. I was planning on giving these to all of our, boards and committees and commissions, and the chamber was there today, and I know that they were part of what this came out of is the chamber saying, well, a lot of people feel like they don't know how to start an internship or that it's going to be a lot of work and what to do. So this is really cool. And one of the other cool things that the campus is doing is they're starting to implement, and it's just starting, but is a co-curriculum transcript, which is in addition to the academic transcript, and basically says that the college is vetting that the students have done all these kinds of, internships or extracurricular work and things like that. So there's a lot of movement there for us to do more collaboration, which is really cool. And I have 2 interns that are working on local food week. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other announcements? All right, then, Aaron, you're interested in the stream daylighting. I know that Dave is here for that as well. Is there anyone here besides you and Zoe who's here for something
We
specific?
have Lindsay Boyd.
Oh, Lindsay. Thank you very much.
It's one of them.
Number 2, and is there anyone here for a specific agenda item?
Well, Zoe needs to be interviewed.
Other than Zoe, Dave, and Lindsay. Alright. So why don't we,
Oh, the moratorium too.
okay, well reminded. Let's get Lindsay on first here.
Yep.
Number 2 then, is there, I'll move to grant the request. Is there a second? Any discussion? Questions?
Are we invited to come and play?
You sure are. Bring
Okay.
kids. I mean, you can play the games too, but it's geared towards 2, 3, and 4-year-olds.
That's about
Well, that's about
Yeah.
the right
It
age
might be a
group.
little
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much.
And Dave, if you wouldn't mind, maybe we can get Zoe
I
out
hope
of
it's
here.
a great
The-
success.
The interview is shorter necessarily than this other conversation, so if you can give us 10 minutes. And then we would go into executive session to interview, is it Kamen? Ms. Kamen?
Zoe.
Zoe? Alright, is there a second?
Second.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll be right back.
Come on, Zoe.
Elizabeth, where's your name?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
And Elizabeth who?
Harshaw?
Harshaw, to the State Food Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you catch that? You were good?
I got Zoe. There was a second name I
Elizabeth
didn't.
Harshaw.
Okay.
She interviewed last
She
week.
was last time.
You might as well point Ellen.
And yeah, move to appoint Ellen Rocco to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I would like to accept the resignation of Ethics Board Chair Terrence Ward.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I think that's it, right?
Mm.
Okay, let's, well, Dave is here for fun, so let's try to get him home. He helped me out understanding the pros and cons of this, whether this whole daylighting idea might be worthwhile. So this, for the just a 10-second version, is months ago when a storm drain rotted out in Peace Park. In getting the cost estimates, I kind of flippantly asked Rich Ruth to get us estimates on daylighting, and it turns out it's fairly, or less expensive than I thought. So we have two options. We gotta fix the storm drain regardless, and what it turns out to be is that just, since it's under the sidewalk, to dig up the sidewalk and tear out the pipe and put in basically put in exactly what we have. Again, it would cost in the neighborhood of $112,000. The most basic, and then there's to do something for daylight it basically, because through that storm drain, it's not just storm water running through. I know I'm talking in an empty room, and these people all know what I'm saying, but there are people who might not know what we're talking about at home. There's a natural stream that got channelized in that storm drain, so it flows constantly year round. It's the same stream that runs to the south of the pit behind Village Hall, as well as then exits and into the Wallkill River just south of Water Street Market, between that and the box factory. So it's actually already exposed in a couple of sections, and I thought it might just be a nice thing for the public to have a stream through in Peace Park. So the last time we reviewed this, we had just hired Kurt, but he hadn't even started yet, and it's been a little while to get on feet and get on his feet and get other priorities done. But the board had asked Kurt to give us a memo on this idea, and I had asked Dave to help me understand some of the benefits from an engineering perspective, and so he, what was the phrase you said, Citizen Dave? Something like that?
Yeah, let's not spread that.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's that. You had the information in your packet. I suppose it's not a, what's the word? What is the phrase? It's not a priority, but it is an opportunity, because if we want to spend a couple tens of thousands to have a improved park, that's an option right now. But we're probably not likely to do it again. Spend $120,000 to tear it up if we decide to do this later. So, anyone have thoughts?
Okay. I think it's a great idea. I mean, Providence Providence, Rhode Island is my example of how you open up concreted rivers, and you know, while this isn't a river, I think it would certainly be more attractive than what we have now. But my question is, how far are we going to open it, from where to where?
The entire length of the park along Hasbrook, roughly.
Just that.
Well, just in the park, right? Wherever we have to replace the pipe. And also a note, in case it occurs to anyone, we would be moving this sidewalk basically into the street. This patio is so wide there that the roadless are fine to just basically move the sidewalk outside what's now the park. So.
So the estimate is 148 for everything, as opposed to 112. That includes landscape.
That's why I asked Kurt to be here, because he was actually talking to them more than I was.
This is the bid that was most complete, Hudson and Pacific.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what, maybe, Kurt, could you say something about the two firms who gave us estimates?
Yes, I certainly can, and then at that point, you may wish, Dave in his memo to the board did an analysis of costs, and might even be better equipped to discuss those, but I will say that what I did was contacted two landscape architecture firms, Behan Design and Planning out of Saratoga Springs, New York, as well as Hudson and Pacific Design out of Saugerties. Principal is Steve Yard right there. Both of these firms have experience in working with the village. Behan has more recent and more expansive experience, but when I met with them to look at this project and discussed it with them, I found both firms to be highly qualified to do this, and then but we can go into costs too.
Kurt, Hudson and Pacific was much more complete in their estimate, and that's my question. 112 to replace it the way it is, right? But to landscape it, open it up, make it beautiful, is $148,916. I don't have that kind of estimate from Behan, so I
did talk to John Behan about that, because I had the same question. I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you were asking. The reason he gave is that because these are just opinions of probable cost, it's some of the cost is up to us, because the firm would work with the board or whoever to actually,
Come up
figure
with
out what
alternates.
come up with a design. And depending on what design, what we wanna do with the park really determines how much some of this is gonna cost. So we could do something, the simpler one would be the lower end. We wanna get lots of formations of shungite conglomerate piled up everywhere with waterfalls and such. It's gonna be, kind of like you get what you pay for.
Right,
A
so
little more.
Is that about accurate to how this process works?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, Bernier and Larios's estimate was for 112,560 for just replacing a pipe, 118 for just putting in a ditch with a gravel bottom, basically. And then the landscape architects had plantings at about $45,000. There were some deducts in that for Hudson Pacific Design. There was about 17,000 in making the swale more aesthetic,
Mm-hmm.
and another 15,000 in landscaping with the Behan proposal.
that's not in their estimate though. That's what I was asking Jason.
Right.
Hudson Pacific is very, I mean,
I-
huge, but they've got everything in here, landscaping, everything.
I think if you look at that, you'll see that it was Bernier and Larios's proposal with just a couple additions in there, Sally.
Or do they cut and paste that from Richard's memo?
Most of it was
Oh.
from Bernier and Larios's.
I don't care how they got it,
Yeah.
at least I have a number to look at.
Right.
Well, how would you? That was one of the things with this is it doesn't sound like it'd be all that complicated to figure out, but this has been like I've been pulling hair out because we can't get firm. There's not a price tag, It's not like we're shopping for a car and we pick this out and we get it. How are decisions like this generally made? We're dealing with opinions of cost because we don't know the final cost until we get the bids back, really. So how
Set a
would you
budget
advise
for the
on that?
project, certainly.
Sorry.
You can set a budget for the project and they'll design toward that.
Why couldn't we design the project in our heads? Or here at the table, like Jason might want this and I would like a bench nearby or, and then have them bid on that.
The closer you can get to what you want, the cheaper it's gonna be for the design, for them. They
Okay.
don't have to do as many iterations to get
Right.
to the final product, so, yeah.
Mm-mm.
There's a lot of opportunity.
So I guess maybe what's the price range? I mean, given just common sense, like if we're gonna get, what's the minimum we would have to pay? You think to get something that would be worth spending money on, and what is outside that we might expect? I mean, I'm trying to just get some kind of range since we can't get a number. Just getting a range based on because the estimates are different. I don't know your whether you recommend one architect over the other or.
I work with both of them, they're both good.
I mean, I thought Hudson and Pacific was pretty clear cut on what they were. So I'm, in my own mind, trying to compare, for $30,000 more, I'm gonna get a lot more for my money than just replacing the pipe and we might end up with a far prettier and more attractive thing for $30,000.
If you could hold them to that, I mean, do what you can to figure out what you want and then say, this is our budget for the project, you need to design.
The only thing
around
I don't know, Dave, and you'll have to tell me, why would I install a filter fabric? Is that so sediment doesn't get caught in?
What I saw in Behan's design was a bioretention basin, and that's not exactly a stream. They may have that off the stream as catching.
I didn't
flows or
understand
whatever.
that, but
That's where the filter fabric.
in Hudson, in the Hudson Pacific design, they say furnish and install native perennial stream with waterfalls, furnish and install filter fabric. And I thought that was probably to catch sediment at the top that might be coming through.
You usually put the stone on top of the filter fabric and you keep the soil from coming up through the stone.
Okay,
That way.
now I understand.
That's probably what they were looking at. We didn't have any sketches on what it was going to look like. There's a lot of opportunities out there. You've got plenty of.
Is that a common answer that I got to that question? You know, why didn't you give us a drawing? And one of them said, well, we'd like to work on that with you rather than presenting with you. Is that a common answer, or is it just?
It's really hard to do a good estimate unless you,
Yeah.
at least you've got a sketch, so I was surprised. I would guess that they have a sketch in their office, that they, once it's out there and it's seen, it becomes.
Someone else will get hired to do it.
I personally think it's a very neat idea if we could figure out how to pay for it.
Well, that's actually not necessarily a problem. Though, since there's not, it's hard to assess the difference. That's why we did try to get pictures. So if there's one firm who's like, you know, landscape work you like better, might play a bigger role than anything else if you want to talk to them. But because this is a sidewalk and stormwater project, we have to bond for it anyway.
Okay.
So we just add in whatever the $10,000 to $30,000 on top of the bonds would be $140,000 or whatever.
148.
And the other way this works too, as well, is that we authorize, say we authorize a $150,000 bond. And then we set the budget and we can get things reduced with maybe donations or in-kind labor. And we can always use whatever we want to spend to repay early. Yeah, exactly. So that's the most common way to fund it anyway.
I was surprised that the design fee for Hudson Pacific was really low comparatively. Behans was $6,000 to $7,500, but there's a lot more that would be added on. That was just to get a schematic design, that wasn't to go to construction. So there's.
Well, would you recommend, Dave, would you recommend that we sit and chat a little bit about what we would like to see? Kurt, I think, has some ideas, and then send it back out for bids from both?
If you could get a good scope, and actually if you could provide them with a sketch of what you're looking for, if you could get that far, you would get really tight numbers, I'm sure.
Oh, good idea.
Well, you're the artist among us.
But apples to apples, it's gonna be much better than we wanna go from here to there, and however you do it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we do have a special meeting we're setting next Wednesday to tour the 2 fire stations. Maybe we can. We'll already be at a.
We're gonna do it aren't we doing it the night we have the regular meeting?
Next Wednesday.
On Thursday?
No, next Wednesday, the 19th at 6 p.m. Stuart and I have a Father Loan Fund meeting.
No, I thought it was next
And
Wednesday.
when's
Never mind.
when's our next meeting?
Our next meeting is the 19th.
The 19th.
Yeah, but I mean,
At 7:30.
the third meeting of the month.
The 27th, Thursday the 27th. The
Thursday.
paper will be notified tomorrow.
Because we moved it.
Or, Aaron, Thursday the 27th, the meeting is being postponed to honor Yom Kippur.
All right. Well, we'll sort it. So Brian, you were going to say something in a little while.
Yeah. Is this something we'd see running water year round, or is
Yeah.
this?
It's the same as the stream behind the pit. It's not a lot of water, but it's it's constantly flowing. You ever walk down by Haswood Park? You walk down. If the park's on your right, you're walking towards 208. There's an undeveloped parcel behind Village Hall. There's a little stream right on the edge of the road. Just look down.
And that's the continuation of
There's a
this.
6-acre watershed above that. We did a study of the drainage when we were looking at the Constantino site. And in really dry periods, it might not flow.
It's not, or it might not.
The storm sewer probably picks up groundwater also, so that would help it flow even when it's not raining.
It was flowing during the drought we had earlier this year. I think. Yeah.
That's good.
Well,
Also,
because it just wouldn't look. It just looked dirt. Like, what was the concern?
yeah.
It wouldn't look good.
I mean, yeah, I was just curious if it would be like running, if it's a stream or if it's like a creek,
Yeah.
or like I don't, you know. I was
Well, we could also
thinking about the
the
aesthetic
design
of
of this stream could also be you could have pools or waterfalls or whatnot because it is starting at the top of a hill and flowing down.
Yeah.
So
One of the
That's
keys
where-
would be to keep the water moving too.
You know,
We've got plenty of slope to be able to do that. We want to keep it moving so there's no mosquitoes or anything
Mhm.
like that.
So these kind of projects, working with landscape architects, I mean, how, you're saying that if we map it out and plan it out, it's a lot more likely to keep within, I mean, are these things that like jump up or escalate very quickly, like the price wise? I mean,
You can usually give a budget, especially the landscape architects, so they know what kind of plantings they're going to use.
right.
You wanna try to get native as much as possible,
Right.
not
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say a team, that shade tree might be able to help come up with
I think so.
things like that.
I would think the community improvement team would be better at that.
No, I said both, yeah.
Yeah.
You have a question?
Because you don't want trees near because of the roots.
Oh, so
But my question, Dave, and this is, I think, an engineering question. We lost the sidewalk because of the running water, which was outside the pipe, rusting it, and the whole thing collapsed. Now, we've opened it up, it's running very nicely, but it gets directed back into a culvert. Are we going to create another potential sinkhole for ourselves further down?
sinkholes usually are caused by bad joints in the pipe. Something
Okay.
opened up, the soil went down into the pipe, and you've got a cavity up there.
Okay, so you don't see this as a problem?
No. If it would
Yeah, we
happen,
won't have to
there'd be
replace
another
storm
bad
drains.
joint there.
We don't have to replace storm drains there again.
No, you didn't do
No, I said we wouldn't,
that. No,
you know, less storm hands.
I think it's a really neat idea.
I had a few questions. When I was reading through the presentations, probably because the people who were making them didn't have a set plan, it looked like there was a lot of room for expansion of expense. So we know that if we fix it to the way it was before, it's 112,000. And there's a target, maybe if we do it a fancier way, it's 148,000, but it could be 200,000 too, because we haven't got done working on it. So that's one concern I had. Also, the question of maintenance. If you put a pipe in there, it's supposed to last 15 years or whatever, and it's done right, then it'll last 15 years. But if you put in a stream with planting and running water, you're going to have perhaps some maintenance issues, and particularly if you're going to put $45,000 worth of plantings, unless there's a very particular choice of plantings for the first several years, you're going to take a long time to water them and keep them up so that they're viable. So if you're putting in plants that are supposed to last for a while, I'm not too knowledgeable about that, but I know that, you know, at least at the beginning, it would take a long time to do that. I'm also concerned if we have an open stream, do we have enough lighting? Of course, it's like drawing a line right between here and the college. At 3 in the morning, are we going to have all kinds of people falling into, breaking their leg, etc.? Do we have liability? Does our insurance carrier care about that? I don't know. It seems like it's potentially a tort waiting to happen, and we have enough of those things. Also, vandalism, is this, when it's open like that, is it subject to vandalism and people hanging out and so forth? We already have a park where we have to deal with that issue. So I don't know if part of this will be a lighting plan. So there's carbon arc lights or something so that people aren't falling in it and so forth. Now the prices that we have, does that include redoing the sidewalk too? That's all part of the prices?
The Bernier and Larios.
So in other words, just what it was before is 112,000,
Right.
including the
Well,
pipe and the
so
sidewalk or whatever.
That's as unknowable as the landscaping, because this isn't a painted probable cost. And look at the end of the Bernier and Larios, the basic, the actual construction will be based on accurate topographic surveys, detailed engineering design, and current capital. So this is a guess, it's an estimate. So make them in higher, and then the bids themselves are really what determine the final price. And we can accept or reject those. So
Historically, government projects have many times really gone over what the initial starting price was as things are added to them, and I think we have to be careful.
All change orders are approved by the village board, so.
True,
First of
but I mean,
all,
you get halfway into it, then.
You don't wanna do change orders. Those
No, I
are the
don't.
worst things in the world. Decide what you want, bid it out, not to exceed, and you'll be amazed in this hungry economy how well we'll do it.
Well,
You guys
I
have
hope
more
you're right.
experience with parks than the five of us on the board. Is there any, I mean, the general speed of Stuart's questions in the same universe, is there a concern here?
Do you wanna bid this out, or can you enlist some community support here that might donate services and reduce the cost? I mean, the cost I saw for opening up the stream is really right there with the culvert. I think a lot of that was because they're pretty popular projects for a community to get involved in.
I mean, I would think, I can't speak for them, but I would think the garden club might be interested in helping landscape and be a
Right.
part. I mean, they maintain the garden down at the post office, they do a lot of gardening all around. I think they would be very much a part, or want to be a part of this. The community improvement team are among some of the hardest working people that we have in the community. I'm sure that they would be very happy to advise and make recommendations. As far as planting, Stuart, yes and no, because you can get plants which are drought proof, if you so to speak, that will pull from that running stream a lot of what they need. So the initial watering would be probably about a year every 2 weeks, you know, for a year, to really get it established and going, I would think. And after that, you know, I don't think we want to plant annuals. I mean, if the garden club wants to plant annuals, I'm not going to say no, but I think the planting itself can be, you know, low maintenance, you know.
This is a
The
new.
just to get back to your question, excuse me for a second, but I think that you've got a couple of kinds of volunteers, the ones that she's speaking of, but also if you're gonna get volunteers, people who can do this for the community, or some of the heavy work at the beginning, you know, I think that's possible, and hopefully we're moving in that direction. But I think we wanna know that we had that lined up before we stepped off of it.
We
What do we think?
do some of it, you know.
Well, Kurt was about to say something.
Well, I wanted to draw a distinction between projects of the past. For example, when detention ponds first became required in conjunction with development, they ended up being not only unsightly and not at all replicating natural conditions, but they also ended up requiring an awful lot of maintenance. In previous municipal lives, they were dedicated and accepted for maintenance and operations by the municipality. That era is sort of gone as the requirements for stormwater treatment and MS4 communities are so much greater. The point being that this is intended to be, while it may not take the original course of the stream, it would be intended to be natural and carefully designed by landscape architects or the existing, the folks who are master gardeners. There's at least 2 specifically that I know of in the community improvement team. So again, in the same way that if this stream had never been piped, maybe I'm being overly simplistic, we wouldn't be replacing the culvert and the sidewalk right now if we had designed the park and incorporated the stream as opposed to piping it, as was the fashion during that time. And that was a WPA project. So this would be intended to be low or almost no maintenance, as opposed to what we have is a situation where we must apparently replace the culvert and the sidewalk above it. So it should be designed to be.
When you say natural course of the stream, how do we get it back to the culvert?
Well, actually, we're not actually we're not recreating the natural course of the stream.
Oh, okay.
Right. It actually would be designed, but the idea would be that the plantings would be so carefully chosen and planted that you would not need. It wouldn't be like maintaining a lawn on a large residential lot where you could incur a great deal of cost regarding maintenance, mowing, and things like that. That's not really the natural. That's not really a natural. That's creating sort of a man-made, turf of acres of lawn in those cases. This would be a design incorporated with nature and what plants would survive there. Not of course what would necessarily be as aesthetically pleasing as a certain, you know, bouquet of different flowering plants at a time of year. It would be natural plantings, and the idea would be that you'd be restoring what would have been basically a zero maintenance stream that, instead of being piped a while ago, would have remained open, and we would have designed our park and lived around the existing meandering course of that little stream.
So you wouldn't have to worry about choice of the plants to be such that it wouldn't have to spend several times a year weeding it out and taking in invasive plants and all that. It would be designed in such a way that pretty much takes care of itself without those.
Yes, but I wouldn't say that necessarily there wouldn't be weed growth. I can't say that, and I think, however, the two landscape design firms that provided these probable costs could probably speak to that with a higher degree of certainty.
Dave, from an engineering standpoint, what do we need done by a professional? In other words, you know, we could take our shovels, but I don't think that's what, okay. So as opposed to what our community experts that we know about can do, I would think the actual digging and directing would have to be by, or not.
The hydraulic design of the stream needs to be done carefully. You have to allow for different flows.
Can Bernier and Larius do that, do you think?
Sure, I'm sure. I'm sure they can. You would have, and Stuart, this might address your issue. The stream is probably going to be at most 10 feet wide, and it's probably 1 foot to 1.5 foot deep, something like that. And it's going to be easy to walk in and walk out of. It's not going to be something that you would fall in.
So you don't think that it's a liability issue? I'm worried for nothing about that one.
Well, going to college, I wouldn't say that. There's just a real opportunity because of the slope. The hydraulics are not that difficult, but you have to be careful to maintain stream flow, basically, at all different.
I also think, well, I think there are times, you know, where things come up and things shouldn't be done because, in a way, I don't think college students' behavior should dictate what is in the best interest of the village. Okay, I really don't. And, you know, if we worry about behaviors and bad behaviors all the time, then we ought to just lock ourselves up in our houses and never come out. Okay, and I just don't feel that way, and I think this seems like a really neat, conceptually neat, if we can pull it off.
Well, I talked to Nancy about what these costs would mean for the borrowing and how we finance it. But in the meantime, while I find this, you know, I'm unclear in this process about if we wanted to do this, because we don't really have to talk about the other alternative. It's just too common sense. It's there. But if we want to daylight this stream, what's the next step that the board would have to take? Because I'm confused about how this working with the landscape architect works. Everything else is just like call the truth, and all the pieces come into play. But this seems like a weird piece to fit into the puzzle. Is this? Do either of you know, or is this something I'll call Rich and Blue tomorrow about?
Landscape architect is going to be much more involved in the aesthetics instead of the technical end of it.
Right.
But if you can put together a plan on what you want to see, even just basics, at least you're pinning it down more. And you can,
well, what I was going to ask is, could we ask Bernier and Larius to come up with the hydraulic plan, the actual, you know, stream part, the engineer, you know, and we all would concentrate on getting community people to do the landscaping.
I'd, if you're going to get a landscape architect involved, they need to collaborate with the engineer. I mean,
Okay.
their alignment may be quite a bit different, or they may have certain aesthetics that they want to achieve. Engineers aren't that good at aesthetics.
Well, then my question becomes on
Wait, aren't you
something,
in the, oh, Dave, I'm sorry.
on Hudson and Pacific Designs, they incorporate everything. Does that mean that they have an engineer
No.
that, so they are gonna subcontract?
They are probably expecting to work with Brunner and Larios, I would imagine.
Yeah, there'll be a subcontractor
they're-
for, with Brunner and Arias, I think.
No,
That's how
but
that
my,
works.
my question is then all of the,
Came from
maintenance,
the
the site preparation and maintenance, those are Brunier and Larius figures and they are incorporating them into their plan.
Yes.
Would we be wise to bid them separately? In other words, Brunier and Larius.
We don't bid the design aspect. Sorry, I forgot to mention that bit. We don't have to go out to bid for the landscape architect to bid. All we have to do is tell Brunner and Larios which landscape architect we like, and they can work right with Brunner and Larios, so you get one bid package.
No, I don't like that idea.
What is that?
Because
Well, we haven't even gotten there yet. We
of
don't even know if
the
this is
cost overruns that Stuart's
That's exactly
talking
what we
about.
were talking about
I
before.
stay away from that.
And if we wanna do parts of this through volunteerism, I think we would need a different kind of breakdown than more of the package that you're talking about.
Collaboration is necessary, but I think your first ideas of what you're wanting to look like is really important to give them ideas so they're not all over the board. The more iterations they take, the more expensive it gets for design fees.
So what we really need to do is come up with a design of just assuming that the engineering and the hydro, what do we call it? Hydro engineering?
It's the hydraulic.
The hydraulic part. We won't understand, but we could just to say what kind of plants, what kind of design, how it's, whether we want falls, don't want falls,
You choose the elements you want in it, and then
Yeah.
they'll work it into a
and
plan.
then get a price.
And if you let them know your budget on this project, they can design to that budget. If there's a cost overrun, it's not gonna be a lot. It's
Well, we'd have to
set.
tell them
They'll
more
change
than just our budget, because we'd have to say that we, just say for fun, we decide we only wanted to use native species, low maintenance.
That should be built into both these estimates. In other words, in my discussions and meetings with both of these landscape architects, they went both directly to Brunner and Larios and had a involved conversation about the nature of the work, and therefore they felt they were able to better pin down these costs. At the same time, when I went back to them and asked them could you give us something more illustrative, they only provided photos that you may have seen that are not scanned so well, but you may have
No.
seen in your electronic version. So they were not more forthcoming with showing us, helping us envision exactly what we would save. They said that would be part of their work, and of course Dave is referring to how many iterations we might go through and how much the cost might be, but there was every effort made to get as much specific information as these two firms were willing to give in order to get this work from the village.
No, but what Dave is suggesting is exactly the opposite. He's saying that we should
yes.
tell them exactly, if we can,
Sure.
what we want.
We need a sketch and an illustration of our own.
It's a real palette out there, you can do a lot of things on that site. I mean, the stream, Brunner and Larios' stream is a straight line, I'm sure, from A to B, because engineers deal that way.
So that's why they need to collaborate.
Yeah, You can do a lot out there as far
Mhm.
as
So where do we go next?
serpentine.
Poll the board, see if they're interested in doing the project.
I'll move concept approval.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
This is just concept approval because there's no point in continuing if,
Yeah, we gotta get some more numbers.
I would prefer to just I would prefer to just install the pipe and move on with it. I'm not really in the mindset of wanting to spend any more money than we have to
Oh.
currently. So that's my opinion on it.
that's great.
Yeah.
I guess to be honest, I'm mixed. I have some concerns. Stuart spoke to a couple of them, but I don't disagree with you, Sally, that we can't let, you know, the lowest common denominator, I suppose, factor of this run how we want a park to look. But I do worry about what the cost will be, and
I did ask Nancy to add the maximum amount, whatever it was, the highest estimate we got,
148,000.
would add $5,000 a year onto our loan payment for the whole project. And I can't. It would be something a matter of.
You said 150,000.
How many years?
Is that what I put in there?
No, but that's what you said just earlier.
Yeah.
That to really make sure we could limit the budget not to exceed $150,000.
Right. And then pay, if it was 120, we just pay off 30 grand early. But I'm sorry, I can't find the email at the moment.
I mean, I guess it also, I would like to beautify the park, but it feels like we're spending a lot of time and energy and resources focusing on this when, we're really willing to discuss certain other things at length. So.
What other things? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I think that, while I do appreciate aesthetic, there's just tons of sidewalk or space that isn't walkable within the village, or sidewalk that's broken, or different things that have a utility to it as well as an aesthetic, and that's where I would prefer to spend the money. I mean, or money if we have to. Obviously we have to repair it, but at the same time, I've been walking up to College Diner every day and I've seen a lot of things that I would just think would be better spent money.
I have to completely agree with you because I just spoke very briefly with the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee, and it reminded me about the sidewalks that are in disrepair that they have been talking to us about for a long time now. And there are two spots in particular in front of the tea room and on Huguenot Street, and these are places that, if we're going to put money towards it, there are things that have been in the works for a long time. The sidewalk master plan they came out with was in 2008. And, a lot of those things that were labeled as poor and damaged are still not repaired. So, it feels like we should be funding.
But it's
we
not,
need to fund.
It's not either or. We do both. There's
just
actually
gonna
a
say-
grant proposal we're pulling together right now. Say if there's a school that does do repairs on the
What is it?
Say if it's the schools.
Oh, okay, right.
So there's a grant
I remember us
proposal,
talking about
that was coming through with that. Blue, we're already looking, because actually, I think it's next, I can't remember which funding cycle, but it alternates in the county, pedestrian versus automobile. So there's lots of other avenues to get money for sidewalks.
I know, but I've been
that
talking
doesn't-
about that for over a year now, and we haven't applied for grants for it until right now. So when things like this come up and we're talking about where we're spending money,
Right.
it makes me concerned that we're not taking care of the things that we're supposed to be taking care of.
My view is
And we're spending a lot of time doing this.
We have to do this.
We have to do something.
No
yes.
ifs, ands, or
And
buts.
we could have had a 2-minute conversation, like Brian said, and been, just gotten it repaired the way we were supposed to. And I do think that this is a nice idea, and I think that this will be nice for the park. But I guess I just have reservations. Is really what it is. I'm not.
Do you have reservations about this project on its face, or you're upset that I didn't spend the time, or the time wasn't
It's
spent
about
on
this
enough different
project.
projects?
It's about this
Because you went on about sidewalks and how
yes,
we should
because
be doing
somebody
that
just
instead.
brought it up to me and reminded me that we have not taken care of this, so I figured I should talk about it here.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, no.
So,
it's,
but
it's
could you
this
could you
project
explain what your
yeah.
concerns are? You just said agree with some of Stuart's, but What are the specifically the concerns?
The cost.
But what about the cost is my question. It's not taking away money from another project. It doesn't prevent us from doing anything else.
No, because when
It's something. It's just so. It really is. It's a matter of somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000
But
is
it's
not
also
worth
the
the
time
cost.
and the resources and the energy that we're putting into this. And I'm obviously in favor of beautifying parks and improving our parks. It's just a matter of what we're doing and what we're spending our time doing. I mean, like there's a number of things that I feel like we could be doing and focusing our energy towards above this, is I guess what it is. And I know that this wasn't something that you just decided to come up with and bring forward. There's a reason why we're dealing with this, obviously, because we have to repair it in some fashion. So if we're going to do this is our opportunity to do this. So I guess I'm in favor of it.
Well, I guess all I have to say is we have a problem, we have to solve it. Okay, this is not something we can just ignore.
Right, we're not going to not do anything.
Right.
I understand.
So why not, for a little bit more money, and I have an idea for sidewalks that I just discovered.
Okay. I like it.
But let's finish this one first. So I guess my feeling is, it's sort of like needing a new winter coat.
Right.
Okay, I can get it, just any old coat for $25, say. But for $50, I can get one that'll last me 25 years.
No, I think it's like you can get two coats. They'll both keep you warm, but one's got the Gucci logo on it, and the other's
No,
just
because I don't like Gucci.
well, whatever your brand of choice is it's like we useful, like so they're both gonna keep you warm. One is
They're not
obviously more
necessarily
aesthetic.
both going to keep me warm. I didn't say anything about the quality of the coat.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think both projects do the same thing. I think both options get water where it needs to go. But I think one, while it is it sounds cool. I would love to see a stream there. That's great. But it's going to cost more, and you're getting it for the aesthetic.
But my point is,
so when you're buying a coat anyway, let's get the fancy coat.
You're getting a lot more for your money
But
than you are if you just spend the $118,000 to replace a pipe and a sidewalk.
$112,000.
No, it's 118.
I thought it was 118 for just the culvert, 112 for
No.
112 for the culvert, 118 for just the basic opening, and then the more fancy stuff on top of that. The landscape design.
Just for the sake of argument.
Okay, but the same-
112 versus 135, say.
Okay. Well,
I think the 135 is a better value.
But they're both just moving water.
No.
One just looks different while it's moving water.
One makes me happy, the other doesn't.
The other doesn't. Okay.
Can you really put a price
Can you
tag
put a
on
price on happiness? I guess you really can.
I'd rather look at
Apparently,
something pretty.
about 18 to 30,000.
Actually, $30,000 would make me
Plus
pretty
about
happy.
what,
I'll take
350 gallons an hour or something like that?
Sure.
Ariana, you understand what I'm saying.
Of course I understand what we're talking about.
Why don't we vote on it?
Do you want the
Well,
Gucci stream or
to
not?
say first.
Well,
That could be the title,
I have-
Gucci stream.
I have
Think about that.
two major concerns. One is that the price is going to be higher than we think it's going to be, and we're going to be halfway into it when that occurs, and so we're not going to go backwards. So if we could have this beautiful project and we could say it was only going to cost $20,000 more, then I understand that what you're saying, that sure, let's do it now because it's going to be another 20 years before we do it again. So, but I don't feel confident that that's the case right now. The other thing is the liability and safety part. I mean, you got an open stream, you got lighting issues. People
Do you know
falling
what the
down.
liability and safety issues are?
No.
Oh.
Well, but don't
I
you
thought
think?
you would have asked that.
Well, I did ask that. I mean,
Tonight, you asked it, yeah.
okay, well, that's when we're discussing it, so we're discussing.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that if you put a pipe in the ground, you put a sidewalk over it, there are very few safety conditions, and the people who put it in are guaranteeing it for 15 years or whatever. So then you know what you got. The other one, you know, I think you're inviting some problems. I mean, I love the aesthetics part of it. I love parks and streamways and waterfalls and all that, but you know, is that realistic in this location? I don't know. So that's why I'm kind of torn with it. And I also think it's a good point on the sidewalks, because I remember going back a few years, everyone said, well, when are we going to get those sidewalks, you know, fixed on right across the street on Plattekill Avenue? Oh, it's a high priority, but it's not fixed. And to me, that's as important to fix as the aesthetics, because it's needed.
I like utility personally.
So you know, I'm torn. If I could count, it's going to cost $20,000 more, and it's not going to create, you know, additional safety issues. I'd be in favor of it, but I don't feel confident that that's the case. But I may be wrong, and if someone explains why I am, then.
Or we can come back when, I mean, if you want to figure out what the, you know, speak to our insurance company and bring it back.
Well, what I appreciate, yeah, I mean, I'll put it back on the agenda. I'm not gonna ask, there's no vote needed for this.
No, we have a motion for concept.
Well, I'll ask you to withdraw it then. But, you know, look, I'm a broken record, but again, if anyone has any questions about any of the things I send out, please ask me ahead of time so I can do the research before we get to the table. All of these questions could have been answered, and this is a project we've known about for months and months and months.
Right.
So there's no excuse. So.
Well, there's also no excuse not to have that be considered in the proposal that came forward either. So I mean, you can look at that.
To have what be considered?
Okay.
The safety issues
Safety
and the lighting
liability.
and so forth. I mean, that would seem obvious to me, but you know.
And we're not there in the process yet because we don't know what it's going to look like. So how you can't address safety or lighting without knowing where the stream is, and then how would you say?
Call the insurance company and ask if they were going to would increase.
Well, obviously, if you're going to have an open stream,
if it's
you know, that's different than having it covered up with a pipe with a sidewalk on top. I mean, that obviously it takes a different treatment safety-wise.
Well, to the extent that a planner can understand and address those issues of liability, I will say that, of course, the obviously streams themselves have not historically been a liability issue. The idea of a naturally flowing stream, or even in this fashion, bringing a stream back to life, obviously natural streams crisscross everywhere, and I don't think that there is a liability issue as far as the existence of a stream that may form the border of two backyards, or may go through public space, through, of course, parkland. So while I can't fully address that issue, I can say that there's the history is that streams are not liability issues themselves as they naturally exist.
What if we build one?
This would be building one, but I think it would qualify.
You would classify as a natural.
Yes, I believe it would. Now again, there's only so far I can go in analyzing liability,
Yeah.
but there is something called general obligations law that limits liability so that not everything is a potential slip and fall lawsuit. So there is a doctrine that otherwise conservation easements and parkland would almost be a constant liability and almost a source of constant threats or actual lawsuits, perhaps taken on contingency basis. So if it weren't for that, it would be very difficult.
I think a closer example to that, Kurt, is our liability insurance is no higher probably than Highland, and we have to walk to the river.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think you're right, you know, but you did make me think of something. There used to be grant money available for restoration of natural springs. Is that still around?
Well, I don't know exactly. I definitely agree that there have been sources of funding for these types of projects. Whether BHAN began to look at that subject for us, and there was nothing that would coincide with our schedule for this project, which is, I suppose, we were looking forward to having it done before winter set in. So the ability to obtain those funds in advance of doing the project, which Behan thought would be necessary,
Well, we
was
probably couldn't do it till the spring.
yeah. So more
Could we
time.
find
might have
out before next week if there are any grant or, New York State Department of Parks often has money matching funds for various projects that we might be able to get our hands
I mean,
on.
we do have our parks fund with enough
Yeah.
money to do this. I was thinking the bonding because that would mean we didn't have to touch the park fund.
And we could do
Because it's just
that.
so weird to be able to get a bond to do parks work because it's
Yeah.
sidewalks. So it just seemed like an easy thing. The other thing I did forget to figure out is it's $5,000 a year over 5 years, I think, something like that, with his bond. And I forgot because it's hard to tell. We're talking about whether it's expensive or not, and it's hard to tell what that means in scale.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone remembers the village budget. I'm trying to think of what it would cost, like an average taxpayer per year. You know,
Oh, yeah,
like,
I'm sure that's.
average single family home at, that kind of, so that kind of number may
Sure.
help put some things in the right order if people are having if that's an objection.
I
If
don't know
not,
if you
then
could
who
pay
knows?
for it out of the recreation fund anyway, we'd have enough money because I think
We
we
put more
earmarked
60.
the money, some of it for the project to match the
Yeah.
funds.
But I believe we still have
Drainage
20 to 30 on top of that. But look, obviously, if I can figure out a way to meet everyone's concerns, let me.
Well, what
I'll
I
give it a
was gonna
shot.
suggest, Jason, is if Kurt come back with recommendations next week of what he's been able to find out about grants and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Dave, the one concern that Stuart has raised, which is not a problem, Stuart, because you confine your bid very carefully. And you don't have cost overruns if you do it properly. Okay, so that I don't worry about. That's not hard to do. If that's the biggest problem you think we have, that is
Well,
not a problem.
I,
And you can also even put performance bonds in so that they have to have the job done or they owe you money.
it's kind of like
So-
catch-22 here, they won't tell you what it costs till you get them in the project and they design it and then you're already into it. So you can't say, all right, we
But
know
we
it's
don't owe
gonna.
them everything they ask from them. After that, we set budgets and we.
Dave
Work
and I'll
within
do the
budgets.
bid specs. Because I think you are raising a question that is not a the liability is, we can get a good answer on that very quickly. We can get a cost on how much the bond
Right.
would be.
I mean, if you could say that it's gonna cost $20,000 more and it's gonna look really beautiful than doing the other one, you could
But-
guarantee me that.
But
I'll
that would
vote
mean
for it
we
tonight,
should never
but you
bond
can't
for
do that.
anything because we're borrowing based on opinions of probable cost with engineering as well.
That's not
So
what
it's
Stuart's concerned about.
you could have cost overruns any place you do things.
Stuart's concerned, Jason, that we're saying it's only going to cost $148,000, and he believes that if we're not careful, which I think we will be, and certainly between Nancy and Kurt, I think we won't have a problem, that things will be snuck in as change work orders, which always cost a bit more. But you can direct the bid in such a way, and Dave agrees, that that's not gonna happen. So that's the big concern. And if you only want it to be $20,000 in landscaping above and beyond the cost of the thing, then at that point, we can play with the idea of getting CIT and the garden club involved and landscape it that way. So I think there is ample latitude here to protect ourselves very, very well and end up with a really nice project.
Well, there's several things expressed. I mean, what are you suggesting that, say, a week from now when we look at it, we'll have a better answer on those?
And vote it
or
up
not?
or down.
Well, I won't have anything done by noon tomorrow. No, it'll be the
No.
meeting after that. So I'd have to wait another month.
I'll be
Yeah, right.
2
No,
weeks.
it's the 27th. Sorry. So yeah, the meeting
Thursday,
is the 26th.
No, I'll ask that it be put on the workshop agenda for a vote.
Can't vote at the workshop.
Hmm?
You
Can we vote at the workshop? Yeah.
If we say we are going to vote on an item, we
supposed to
can.
vote at the workshop.
Well, I think that
We can add it,
I think that,
Refuse
if
to
we
add.
agree to add it.
I refuse.
but you already have one
That's
thing that's
okay.
coming on, they decide to have a public hearing, it's already on the workshop.
She's
so-
wearing Gucci.
Gucci shade. Gucci shade.
If four of us say we can vote, we can vote.
But, you know, as long as it's advertised.
I'll have something for the 26th because I'm not gonna have time tomorrow
Why's
morning
that?
to get all this done. That's what it comes down to for the agenda.
Okay.
That's good.
It's just a couple phone calls. It's not this whole project is not really that involved. Just it's phone calls
So
waiting
the
for things to
things
get back
that
to you.
people are looking for is, will it increase the liability insurance for that?
I got it. You know, we don't have to go. I'll go through. All right.
And we agree, we will vote on it on the 27th or 26th?
Well, let's not worry about the 2 meetings from now. We don't have to decide when we're gonna vote.
I
on
don't
it.
wanna sit and discuss this ad infinitum like we did with the chicken law.
Neither
Thank
do
you.
I.
Or put it down.
Neither do I. I've been trying to get this through for months.
All right.
I'm sorry, Ariana?
I said I could vote on it, but that's okay. I didn't
Dave,
vote
thank you
that
for
one.
coming out, by the way.
Hey, could you
Citizen Dave,
tell
appreciate it.
us,
Appreciate your work.
could you look at the cost figures and give, and so that everybody's comfy, tell us what cost figures are a must for us to pay, like the, you know, in other words, the culvert design, the filter pads, that kind of stuff, as opposed to the landscaping that we might be able to get people to do for us. Is that possible?
Yeah, you could probably get the design and like the species, you wouldn't have to include that as part of the project if you wanted to plan it at a later time. I mean, there's actually optimum time. to
Project
plan.
like this, doing it piecemeal is not a good idea though.
Well, I'm thinking of the community team, maybe.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of what the basic costs are for the engineering part, okay? The landscape design part, but not the implementation of the landscape design part, which we could probably get people to do. Could you do that?
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
give you a ballpark.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dave.
That's
As far as projects and going over the way government projects do,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of pride ourselves, we have a number that we use. The only time that you should ever have a change order is if there's some kind of unforeseen condition that you dig up. Where did that come from?
like if we found natural gas and you and I decided to exploit it.
I don't think do that.
We always work on.
Gotcha, Ariana.
You should see my eyes. They were wide.
Project goes over 5% of what the budget was or what the bid price was, we
Right.
failed someplace.
Hmm.
If there was something there that, you dig out, that's different, that's a change order.
That's
You can't-
understandable.
You have to deal with that, but there really if the plans are very detailed and the specs are really detailed, there shouldn't be price overruns, there really shouldn't.
I agree.
Thanks.
Deputy Mayor Rhodes, are you withdrawing your motion?
Hmm?
Are you withdrawing your motion?
I did it a while ago, because Jason withdrew a second, so I didn't have
Yeah.
a motion.
Exactly. All right. Kurt, you're also sticking around to help talk to us about the moratorium,
Yes.
but we're usually take a 5-minute break at
Yeah.
9. Should we do it early now and then is that
I
right with
now
you?
walk over and get
Alright.
the toilet
No.
please.
With the leader?
And I left him on the chair.
Please, no.
Stop laughing.
No, I'm crying.
Yes.
So this is more yours and Joe's babies than anybody else.
Thank you, Mayor. One of our top priorities, of course, in planning is a moratorium in conjunction with reconsideration of code provisions and implementing those code provisions to implement the objectives that remain relevant from the '94 plan, as well as the individual adopted component plans which supplemented our master plan, our last full master plan of 1994. So in order to do that and not have what's known as a race for diligence, which can invite, which can, it can be occasionally an invitation to, for many applications, even if they, out of concern for what might come out of implementing code changes. So for that reason, of course, a moratorium, or when this is called interim zoning law, because it actually is an amendment to your existing zoning law, and also the subdivision regulations. So it's technically treated as that, but it's a tool used statewide and beyond in order to try to keep the patterns of development suddenly from lurching in a different direction than our adopted planning objectives and the master plan and those supplemental studies that have been done. One of the things that's most noteworthy about it is not suggesting that we have a moratorium for the B1, the B2, or the Gateway District. I don't foresee major changes within those three districts, and at the same time, and especially in this economic climate, I think we likely wish to not stop any momentum that may be gathering with regard to commerce in the village. So for that reason, it really focuses on the residential districts. And one of the things that, with the board's, at the board's direction, one of the things that I plan to look at very carefully is a comprehensive review of the formula for density. Just how much density and human inhabitation can an individual lot of a certain size accept? Someone put in a great deal of time, the village put in a great deal of time previously. It's probably time to at least take a look at that and make sure that it results in the type of development and density that we want. So.
Great. Well, questions?
I'll go first. This moratorium would be enacted for how long?
Term initially of 6 months, and it may conclude there, or it may be extended by action, specific action of the village board, if need be. And this is as village council advised me, of course, this there are time limitations on moratoriums in general, but the initial term would be 180 days, and with the possible extension beyond that, and perhaps 3-month periods of time.
Is the plan to revise the master plan completely?
No, actually, it's my recommendation, or at least something I'd like to offer for discussion, that the master plan process, no matter how smooth it goes, the procedural requirements are such that it would be nearly impossible to do in less than a year, and they can often take longer. So therefore, looking back at our 94 plan, I certainly would like to undertake a revision of the master plan, but I'm concerned about time. I'm concerned about the length of time, especially with regard to what our economy, the regional economy, and the national economy has been through over the last 4 years or more.
What is it in the procedure that makes it take a year?
Sure. In order to do a master plan, there needs to be an awful lot of public meetings held to get ideas, and public hearings held, and there also is there were recent.
Like how many?
How many? Let's.
I mean, I'm sorry, I don't
Sure.
figure out. I'm
No,
just like want to know.
I believe that there's at least 2 public hearings required, and then you must document that you've had not public hearings, but public sessions in order to elicit and bring out as many members of the community as possible in order to participate.
And you think that portion of it is what?
That, as well as even the State Environmental Quality Review Act has rather recent cases. In the last 2 or 3 years, there have been cases that where a master plan has not been upheld, where a generic environmental impact statement has not been undertaken. that's a relatively new development in the history of New York State master plans.
Is that true even for an amended master plan?
In a sense, the terminology is thrown around various ways, but really any update of a master plan is the same unless it's the first one the community is ever undertaking.
Right.
The subsequent ones are technically updates, comprehensive updates of the existing master plan, unless it's literally a community's
So would you
first.
have to do the environmental
Yes.
review, even if it's an update?
Yes.
Okay.
Not only the environmental review, but you may be forced into a generic environmental impact statement, and that's a substantial undertaking, and that has, again, no matter how fast you get through the substance involved in that, the procedures are pretty rigorous, and it's intended not to be quick, but rather to be thorough and providing many opportunities for public comment and the like.
Now, my only concern about this, and I think it's very good and well done, thank you, is we put on the table a review of Floyd Niffin's whole plan for the annex property.
Yes.
And I think in fairness, that has to be exempted from the moratorium.
Yes.
Is
I
that
did-
covered here?
Well, no, I did struggle with that a little bit because once you do it not by district, but by areas, neighborhoods, or even large pieces of property, I'd at least want to discuss that with Joe, and I didn't. I think that's a little bit, that's difficult to design into the moratorium, but that is where a lot of the work went into what to include in the moratorium and what not to, as
And-
well as.
Well, he would be considered B2, right?
Is that the?
No,
He was on
no.
R1.
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 Okay, that's what I
Temporarily.
think there was another.
So that would be included in the moratorium.
Though, it would be though, we have, the two areas, the B3 and Floyd, we have actual projects that are potential applicants involved. The B3 is not is the B3 included in the moratorium?
No.
No.
It's
Okay,
business.
I just want to
Right.
double check, but with Floyd's parcel, once the moratorium is in place and we start to rewrite the zoning law, we're free to prioritize what we write first. But is there a way to selectively lift a moratorium from zones as we finish the zoning? Like if say if it's R1 and we just turn that and a couple of neighborhood parcels into a new zone because of the results of our work, can we just lift the moratorium on that once that's approved, or does the whole thing have to be done before we're?
I believe so, and I just want to make a clarification.
Which one? First one or the second one?
I'm sorry, that you can lift it.
Oh,
You
you
can
can.
lift
As we
it.
finish sections of the work.
Yes, I believe so, and I also should mention the B3 is included, but that's first on my list. The B3 districts is first on my list. So, and that zoning needs to be put into place. It's not in place now. So once we implement that first, we can't exempt it from the moratorium because we know we don't have the zoning in place for the development that we'd like to see occur, and that owners of property in that district may well be coming forward to do. They're coming forward to produce development that was considered as part of the B3 zoning project a few years ago, and the current zone doesn't serve those needs. So that's why I excluded the B3 from that's why the B3 remains subject to the moratorium, but that's where we had the most planning work done, and of course the village board had adopted that as policy, and now we're implementing it through the adoption of zoning for that district, and that'll be first.
But that doesn't answer my question.
I'm sorry.
There were two things that we
Yeah.
waited for your arrival to get
Okay.
taken care of. The Niffen parcel
Yes.
and the B3.
Well, I considered both. The B3 was very easy for me to handle
Right.
in the context of the moratorium. Okay, so the Niffen property remains. I perhaps like to speak with village council to discuss ways of accomplishing that, because it's either leave that district out entirely, or I'm sorry, leave it not subject to the moratorium, or perhaps there's another approach to it.
Because, I mean, we zoned it R1 as a temporary thing
Placeholder thing.
until we could get
Mhm.
this taken care of. And I think to include that property in the moratorium would be wrong.
Why?
We don't have a choice, is what Kurt was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he can check with Joe.
What about the possibility of having it last 3 months and then have the right to re-up after that, and then maybe at the end of 3 months you have the answers to part of things, and then when you re-up, it's a revised moratorium. Is that doable?
I think that's viable indeed, because the adoption of the moratorium is unlike the adoption of the master plan. It's a type 2 action, namely exempt from environmental quality review because of its temporary nature. I think that was the intent when the authors
6
of
months.
SECRA considered how to classify moratoriums. The state, in other words, this is not just by our local regulations. This is by across the state. A moratorium is a type 2 that is exempt action from SECRA, requiring no SECRA review. So, and again, it's because of its temporary nature that municipalities are limited in how long they can reestablish maintain a moratorium before concluding it. So I think it certainly is in the purview of the board to adopt an initial period of 3 months, and it would not be particularly cumbersome to revisit at the end of that period and perhaps hold another public hearing and another local law to extend that.
Because maybe you've solved that issue, which is a priority issue for the board, and can't be exempted, I wouldn't think, from the moratorium until you solve it.
Yeah. The question I would have for village council is, would we be lifting it on any property zone with that zoning designation of that property annexed, or would we be able? I don't believe we could lift it from that property and not consider other properties with that same zoning designation.
Well,
Perhaps at
because
the end of 3 months, you're going to designate it as Q zone or something that you haven't had before, and because you're going to do something different with it. And so it wouldn't be all the R1 zones, it would be the Q1 zone, which you're creating at the end of that time, perhaps.
Very good point, and that certainly would I think answer that question.
I mean, technically, it's zoned R1 only because we had to take,
We have to
as
zone
Jason
something.
said, put it in a placeholder until we could have action on it. And this man has waited a long time.
Oh, that hasn't escaped me. These are some of the threshold issues with moratoriums, and they would come up in any case where you wouldn't want it to be universally applied to every district in town. So this issue comes up, and it's sometimes some difficult choices must be made. But as Stuart just mentioned, if this process results in a different zoning designation altogether for that property, which it may well be the case, then that would be a solution to reconciling priorities and the time that's passed before we're putting permanent zoning in place for the new property.
But you have things that you have exempted.
But-
Okay, why can't you exempt the annexed property?
Because
The annexed.
they're annexed full
Because
zones.
that's a specific property.
They're full zones that are annexed, not, you can't just,
Yeah.
that's like.
These are full
spots.
zones that are exempt from this, but if we have just this property exempt, then we're saying this specific property is,
But we really haven't zoned that
But we
property
have
But we
zoned
have.
it.
on a temporary
right,
basis.
Still
right, but
zoned.
we still
This-
did it, and it's
This
still
question,
part of
I
our
think,
law.
is specific enough that I should consult, I should at least ask to discuss it with village council.
Well, I wanna say that this doesn't bother me. I don't have a problem with including it in the moratorium because I think that if we do a 3-month moratorium for now, we don't know what we want to have that area look like yet, what we want to zone it as.
But Ariana,
So we
earlier-
can work on that first.
Earlier in this meeting, we had a lot to say about things that have been discussed too long and not action taken on them vis-a-vis sidewalks. The
Yeah.
sidewalk discussion came much later than the whole issue of the annex property, which has been a topic of this board table since we all took office. And
But we
have
never
not
came
taken
up
care
with
of it.
zoning that we want for
And we
it.
said we would take care of it and we would do it, and we haven't done
And
it.
I agree with you, but I don't think that means that we leave it exempt from a moratorium without any kind of idea of what we didn't work on it, we didn't do the zoning for it. I think we all have ideas of what we would like to see there, and we had people come and contribute their ideas. We had that workshop meeting, so it's not like we haven't moved on it in any way, shape, or form, but we didn't solidify what we want. So I think that we should take the time now with this moratorium and do exactly that, and we can do it first.
I would prefer to wait to hear what Joe has to recommend on this property, because I really feel that we have been remiss in not keeping a promise. And I won't vote for the moratorium
I didn't
unless that
promise.
property is exempt.
But I don't feel like I
No,
promise,
come on.
promise that,
Fine.
like, we're gonna allow this to be moved on right away. It's promised that we were going to work on it, and I think this is working on it. Because if we make it our priority and we do it first, and we all figure out what kind of zoning we'd like for that area, then we can,
What if I were to actually have some research and some helpful information by the deadline tomorrow for next week's work session?
That'd be fine with me.
but then we can't vote on it.
Hmm?
But then we can't vote on it.
If we all agree, we can.
But we all agreed that we weren't gonna do that anymore.
cannot.
We all
We're not
agreed
gonna
that
play
we were
by
gonna
our
have
own
a
rules,
workshop
then what are we
meetings.
doing?
Alright?
I actually
Right?
think the rules say that we can vote.
It says in cases of
If-
extreme
Emergency.
situations.
It's emergency, there's a majority vote of the board. I don't
Well, I
remember
think
if
that
that-
Mariana considers the moratorium a rather
The vote
important
tonight,
thing.
I mean, I do too.
the vote tonight, I would recommend would be to refer it as our code requires to the planning board. This requires a referral to the planning board. Technically, it's an amendment to our existing zoning law.
And the county plan.
And the county, it's required to be referred there too. You give the planning board 45 days, obviously they will cooperate with us and they will not take 45 days. And the county has 30 days and they may well cooperate in order to get it back to us in something less than 30 days. But that would be the vote as well as, that would be the next step, those referrals.
So that would give us the time to check on.
Yeah.
What if we change it in the meantime?
That's the problem though, if you refer this to them and then we come back and
Say
we
3
decide
months
on
or
this 3 months
something.
instead of 6 months, well maybe we have to send it to them again because that materially changes what you're sending.
Especially in the case of the county. The planning board may or may not be overly concerned about that, but you're right, that the county, they need to make sure that they follow general
Mhm.
municipal law, section 39 themselves. So they, regardless of how they felt about the substance of it or whether they, even if they didn't have any level of discomfort, they may be required really to ask for a resubmission, and that of course leads to some delay.
But Kurt said that he could, in fact, get an answer by tomorrow from Joe on this.
That in conjunction with research of my own, I know that
Yeah.
Joe may have an
So-
appointment in court or something.
Do it and just send it off to the county plan. If we can do it, we can do it, and just include it and send it off.
Do what?
We do what?
Exclude that parcel?
Yeah.
I don't think we can.
Yeah.
If we can.
But the thing is, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I would say
Oh,
my
well,
my
that's a different
recommendation
issue.
my recommendation for changing it would just be 3 months instead of 6 months,
Yeah,
and then
me
I'd be
too.
happy sending it to the
Exactly.
planning board. It's,
I think your choice is either we don't do anything until you solve that problem,
right,
or you perhaps do a shorter one
right.
so that you can, in that time, solve this one issue that we think is really important and it's been waiting for a while.
Right.
And I would favor that as opposed to waiting to do anything until we solve that, because then you might get into this rush to diligence issue, which is not a good thing.
No, but that I think there's an in-between question. I understand what you're saying, and I'm in favor of the 3 months as opposed to the 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, are we asking Kurt to waste his time finding out if that property can be exempt from the moratorium if the majority of us say you don't care?
Well, I don't think you can say you don't care, but
Well,
you'd rather
Ariana
not vote for that
says-
for one reason
Well,
or
it's
another.
not that I don't care. I actually care very much.
Right, but
But no, you understand, you would prefer to get it going without even that question answered.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, it seems that the B3 and the Niffen property have much in common. In other words, we know that there's interest in developing both of the district and this property. So therefore, but we know that we need to implement the studies and the master plan that was done in order to create the zoning to allow different styles of development that are allowed now. So in a way, they're in a similar position. They don't have the zoning in place yet. It's not that so if we take the 3-month period, that might allow me to work concurrently on both. I mean, they're both significant projects, but I think 3 months could be reasonable to produce zoning for the village board and allow them to lift a portion of the moratorium.
right, we come back 3 months.
Yeah.
We can continue the moratorium on the 3 different R zones, have the B3 and Floyd's new zone.
If we
Yeah.
can
Out of
have
it.
that
I mean,
done within the 3 months.
I also don't really see them as so similar because for the B3, I feel like there's been extensive research done as to what we would like to see in that area, and I feel like that isn't the case at all for the Floyd
That's
Newman
true.
property.
That's true.
And so for me, in terms of me making a decision and thinking about what I'd like to see there, I know what the community would like to see in the B3 area. I read a study on a recommendation about it. But for the Floyd Niffen property, I feel the complete opposite. I feel like I don't know what the community would like to see in that area, and I feel like I have not had any kind of real recommendation on what it should be. And I have thoughts, and I think we've had some productive discussions about, what kind of like mixed use we could create without using a mixed use, overlay district, which is basically how the conversation had come up to begin with. But I see them as very different kinds of projects.
There is that distinction. That's an important distinction to make. I think what I believe I can do is within that initial period, do the proper work to justify the regulations that may be adopted for the Niffen property, whereas the B3 was a much larger project. There was an extensive study done on it, and of course I'm pleased to inherit that and be in the position of using that to write the implementing regs. But you're right, it does the groundwork, the basis for any zoning that we'll adopt for the Niffen property does need to be established. But since the B3, that work has been done by others before me, I'd like to think that I concurrently can prepare this. And of course, then it's subject, of course, to public hearings before we adopt the zoning, and of course, discussion by the board and perhaps further direction to make.
Excuse me, I was in the conference room for the bike committee, and I believe I left my pocketbook there. If somebody has a key. I'm sorry to
no,
interrupt.
it's okay.
Is there a public hearing needed for a re-up of a moratorium?
Yes.
It's passing law.
Yes.
So for us to get an extension on a 3-month moratorium in time, we need to start a month in. Because we need to have it written
to keep it
30 days
continuous.
first to have it continuous, 30 days for comments, and then, well, more than that. More than a month in. Actually, if we started it this week, it would start the re-up
It'd
in
be a
about 2
continuous
weeks.
process, basically.
Yeah, continually, yeah, basically. So that's, I think,
So leave it at 6
3
months
might be a
would
little
make
bit tight.
sense.
Yeah, I mean, we can do it, but it'd just be a lot of acrobatics, you know?
Well, how about 4 months? I mean, there's nothing sacred about how many months.
No, not.
Because we need to, after the public hearing, we need 30 days public comment, or 30 days to file the law for it to take effect.
Yeah.
Plus 30 days of comment from the planning board, and 30 days notice for the public hearing and meetings.
Yeah.
So basically, we'd have to start a second moratorium the night we pass the first.
Good point.
Yeah, it takes 3 months to get a moratorium.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of weird.
We could just leave it at
I mean,
6.
Does that even work?
No.
Past 2. To do it, yeah.
What about 4? I'm just trying to shorten the time so that hopefully this issue
Well,
will be
look.
solved, that's all.
No, because
No.
Kurt said it could be solved by just lifting it. We can lift things out of the moratorium as we develop them.
As soon as I find out
I mean-
whether it's by district or by.
How many months will it take you to assess whether we need a long moratorium? If this is a 3-month project to get the NIFIN and the B3 done, then we need a 6-month
I mean-
moratorium. We can maybe map it based on the deadline for the work, you know?
It also says applicants may apply to the village board for an exemption from this local law, which may be granted by the village board only where the applicant demonstrates substantial evidence, blah, 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 blah. If there's something that we want to make happen, we can make it happen.
And that may be the argument for why we could include one parcel. If there's a hardship
We
variance
shouldn't
already.
even bother with that. I think that we should work on things as we're going to work on them. And if within the next 6 months there's something that's going to be brought to us, it gets brought to us.
Well, I think,
I don't
yeah,
think so.
it's a
It
little.
was brought to us, and that's what I'm saying, Ariana.
Well, now we're getting circling back. Because we can't answer that question, because, right, about whether the parcel can be in the
No,
right?
we
So I
can't
was
answer.
gonna find out.
No.
But what was the point you were making after that one?
Oh, but
Before it gets
I'm saying, if something's going to be brought to us, like a plan, a physical plan of what wants to be built or something. I mean, we can look at it and analyze it, and it can be maybe we can create this zoning, and then as we're doing it, we can, if we really wanted to. I mean, I don't feel like this is I'm going to be inclined to, and I don't feel like this is going to be something that is going to come before us within the next 6 months. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that, but I think that it's going to take us a little bit of time to figure out what kind of zoning we want there.
Did we really plan to have shovels in the ground within the next 6 months?
Exactly.
Like Floyd's was that like ever an intention for us? I mean, no.
I also think that using that clause about the hardship, you're asking for potential problems too, because then there's gonna be other people, entities that want to use that as well.
Raise
And
resistance for the-
particularly, it seems like that's for a particular issue, but his issue is a lot
I
of
can
issues.
see it now. I mean, Floyd is a developer. He bought the land to develop, okay? If the hardship issue is not gonna work, I agree with you,
Right.
Stuart, because then you can have some landlords who wanna develop more housing,
You bet.
and it's a hardship. So I don't
So
think
then
we're gonna
so
win
then
on
we
that one.
wouldn't do that anyway. But I mean, the thing is that I don't have any problem with this. I would pass this tonight. Like, I would put this to send it off to everyone we need to send it off to and vote yes for this. But, I'm just trying to make other people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
No, because I think that we really do have a moral obligation to do what we promised we would do when we got the planner on board.
Okay,
This is putting those steps in the right direction,
But
no?
I think that we are.
I'm sorry, Justin.
So I want to add one thing, that this precedes me, okay, but when this property was annexed, it should have been clear, even if it wasn't stated, that that the owner of that property was free to approach the board at that moment in time with his own proposal for
We
zoning
did
that
meet
parcel.
with him, Kurt, so.
Yeah, but he didn't come to us with a proposal. We discussed it.
And we talked about planned unit developments, we talked about preserving the Millbrook Preserve and therefore having clustered housing.
Well, that's getting into site design, and I'm looking forward to that step very much. I think the B3 and the different property are going to yield wonderful results. But I guess what I'm suggesting is that in such a case as this, it would not be uncommon for an owner and his advisors in engineering, planning, and others to come forward with a proposal for the village to adopt. And again, it precedes me, so I don't want to pretend that I was there when this was occurring. I wasn't, but that is commonplace.
Passing this law gets you what you want. If you voted for this right now tonight, it gets you what you want. Because, I mean, clearly, you don't do everything simultaneously, right? Though you do work on multiple things all the time. So
Well,
Kurt's already said the two priorities are the NIFIN and the B3. We've got actual human beings kind of feeling pressure in those areas in a way that we might not in a place that's just kind of abstract zoning conversation. And Kurt's already said that, I mean, you write a draft of the B3, you send it out to Joe Ariel for his review. What are you going to do next? Well, I'll grab Floyd's file and do that, and then so you alternate and you alternate.
Lift that out.
And he's already said that he can have the NIFIN and the B3 done as a stage 1 of the zoning changes. So passing this actually means that
He's committed.
Floyd,
start working on this
it
sooner.
pulls the trigger on that rezoning. I mean,
Okay.
and not only that, for the next 3 months while we're waiting for this to actually become law, frankly, between all the referrals, we're already starting on that. So by the time the moratorium's in place, it may be a moot point. You never know.
If we promise that that's the way it will be, I will support this.
I'm willing.
I mean,
Well,
Does that sound right to you?
Yes, and actually, I'm committed to prioritizing within this priority of the zoning update, and I think I can appreciate.
Because I think the B3 and the Niffen property
Right,
have been
simultaneously.
sitting on the table for too long, and we haven't done what we're supposed to be doing. So I want to get both of them
And
done.
those are simultaneously. Those.
All right, then I can support it.
So that's it, that's a 6-month time.
To
The
yeah.
way it's presented to us without changing it.
In a 6 months time, which will take us 2 or 3 months
Yeah,
for it to be
I'm
in
down
effect.
for 6 months.
So we may be able to change, to.
And meanwhile,
The 6 months starts running from when you pass it, or
Yeah.
it runs from some other point in time?
When it's filed.
well,
probably.
it does need to be filed in the way that other local laws.
30 days from
are.
filing
So
with the
when it's
secretary.
filed.
So this is gonna be, we have to set a public hearing, and then we have to do it,
Yes.
and then it has to be filed,
Yeah.
so
Right.
we're really talking
So if,
7 months or
Do
more.
we send it
Right.
to, we send it to the planning board and county before we call for the public hearing?
Oh yeah.
Yes, they
we
would
need their
be
comments.
going, they would
That's what I
be
thought.
overlapping. If you were to be looking at a schematic of time, you'd see those lines, those horizontal lines overlapping, as they should. So-
And when we get closer to the actual public hearing date, we'll have a better idea of how much work we've gotten done front-loaded before the moratorium, and maybe have a second draft of what the zoning priorities are, so that we can discuss that at the public hearing. What are we going to do once we get it done and the moratorium is in effect? So I would imagine at least one of the two would be done before
So I'll
3
move
months.
that we begin the process of moving this toward adoption.
Be referring it to the planning board and county planning board for their comment.
Second.
Any discussion?
And just to be clear then, so when we do that, then we have to hear from them before we schedule. the public
Yes,
hearing?
that's what I was just
Fine.
asking. I'm pretty sure we can't schedule it
So
simultaneously.
we, okay.
Okay, I'll take a closer look. I believe that we might be able to schedule in anticipation of those statutory time periods ending. So,
45 days.
yes, for the planning board, however.
But let's not schedule a meeting, if we get comments back earlier, then we
Then
can't have
let's
a public
do it.
hearing without canceling and renoticing and spending that money, so.
With the planning board meeting twice a month, as ours does, and also the ability to do as once in a while the village board may do, and vote during a work session, then that should work out with our planning board.
Right? Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Kurt, very nice
Just
work.
remember, Katie,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
got the promise down in the minutes.
That's right.
I did. I was taking diligent notes.
I'll have another donut wherever they disappeared to.
It's blocking my
Are you
view.
hoarding them, Mariana?
I certainly was not.
She
Stuart
was-
put them on the ground.
I
Did you
put it in
get
there
one?
so I could see
I
their
did.
plan.
One
It's the
another.
local government.
Sure. It's that.
Stuart, please pass that to Ariel.
It's their organic.
No,
Yeah.
Little
I don't think
Debbie
there's
Tatum, she
anything
lives in
directly
the
involved with you, Kurt. You're welcome to stay, obviously, of course.
Thank you.
But,
Thank you, Kurt.
Thanks a lot.
Sorry, run quickly.
all right. Well, let's burn through and see what we have left to talk about.
Okay.
On behalf, are we accepting this gift?
Mhm.
What do you? This is yours, right, son?
On
Would
behalf
like to-
of Vicky Danskin,
Can I keep these?
from Vicky Danskin, on behalf of the New Thoughts International Committee, for calligraphies
I love
from
it.
our sister city,
What do they mean?
meaning,
Do we know what they say?
I'm gonna look and see. We are global villagers, there are no borders,
Balls.
work to save this earth.
Oh, I like that.
Oh boy.
Is this something that,
Well, there's also
except
something
these,
different,
we should
This one,
write to whom?
Vicky.
Say thank
Al Marks can help. He keeps in touch and he can
I mean,
translate.
so I mean, do we
No, the
thank
thank
Vicky
you
or we
is
thank
Vicky.
someone else?
Oh, the Vicky,
She
okay.
had them.
Love and enjoy life, friendship, laughter, and nature is this one.
Oh, cute.
She wants it for her.
And last but not least, oh, many happiness prevail to all forever.
Wow. All right.
And we need that.
Sure.
Okay. Anyway, I thought that was just lovely. So,
It is
Katie,
lovely, thank you.
do
Yes.
do we want to hang them in the small conference room?
Or the hallway, maybe.
The hallway, wherever
Do
you.
some stuff in the hallway, I think.
Well, let's let Katie make the artistic decision. Here, dear. Bring it back.
I'm actually a math person.
Oh, really? Maybe I should trade you.
Figured out by geometry then.
Yeah.
Okay, we did two.
Thanks, Katie.
All right,
So
three.
do we need a motion to accept those with gratitude or something?
Sure, that'd be lovely.
So moved.
I'll second. Whatever. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number three is a little preview. Sally, the finance committee, I guess, has been working on revamping our water sewer laws and our rate
Oh, I love
structures.
this.
We're gonna have David Merzick, the attorney we hired, to do this at our meeting next week. With all the
Okay.
details. But if there's a Sally, if there's any obvious concerns or questions, you might want to see it
Let me just
ahead of time.
very
It is very
quickly-
dry, so.
I'll very quickly point you in directions.
I meant
Not really.
reading and editing that, yeah.
But what I'm gonna suggest is it's getting late,
God, we're
and I want you to read them and get back to Jason, to me, or to Nancy with any concerns you have.
Okie
The
dokie.
legislative intent, which is on the top of what Katie gave us on the table, in
Got
terms
it.
of the water, okay, is, it states our intent both to raise our rates, which we have not done in years, but also to have a conservation factor, okay? So that people who try very hard to use less water, which I believe is a finite resource, will be rewarded in the sense that their rate will be lower. The more you use, obviously,
The more you
the
pay.
more you pay.
That's why I don't travel.
Okay, so
I like this.
that
Me
is,
neither.
that's the new legislative intent, which is the first part,
That's interesting.
okay?
First time in a while.
We are including a provision that the title owner, as shown on the current assessment roll, will be billed, it will not be individual tenant water meters,
Okay.
okay? We're gonna increase the turn-on fee from $30 to $50.
Good idea.
Okay, we have amended to refer to the consolidation of multiple meters to industrial and institutional users rather than the earlier references,
Could I ask you,
non-residential.
can I ask you a question on one of the previous ones? You say that there won't be tenant meters. Does that mean you could have 4 meters in the building, but they'll all be in the landlord's, owner's name?
Well, I think it is our, yeah,
I
That's
mean,
the
it's
way
it's not
it'll-
just one meter, but
Right.
it's the
Yeah.
one person who's liable for it.
Like an apartment complex, I think some of them have individual meters, all the apartments. So we'd be billing Meadowbrook or
so
Town
it
and
will
Country.
be
yeah.
owner
Right.
referenced.
Oh, I do have a question about that. In terms of like when we send things out in the water bills, for instance, that therefore it would only be going to the person who owns the property, and we wouldn't be informing the people who live at the property. How would we?
Well,
I mean, this
We
is
could do.
something we can talk about
Yeah,
later. But
yeah.
No, it's a
I
good-
thought
it's
of
a
it
good
right
question.
But
We could
most
also-
of the things that we need to notify, such as tree pruning and things like that, don't
Right.
involve tenants. They involve property owners.
But tenants do have to, they pay water. Like a lot, in a lot of tenant housing, someone within the house will pick up the bill. Now,
The
so a
landlord,
landlord has to do it. So, I mean, that may or may not leave an opportunity for charging the residents of the home more than what they would normally pay. So like, let's say, you're a landlord and, you don't want to necessarily deal with that. You can be like, you spent $800 in water this month. Like,
That's a landlord-tenant lease provision, how that's handled. That should not be a village problem.
Yeah, I mean, I had a landlord who everything was included, and we actually had a running toilet for 1 month, and we noticed
If you
they like covered
down-
the bill. But I've heard of the opposite happening with students that
We've
get
had it
screwed.
before us.
Yeah, you recall we
Right.
had that issue here.
We've had a number of those questions before us.
So I mean, I hear what you're saying,
It could
because
go-
I think it could go either way, but I think it could go either way right now.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, we,
Because that's something more of like, it's an all-inclusive, lease, basically, if your rent is all included, and then, or if it's not.
Anyway,
wait, hold on, before we move on, we could sidestep the notification, because it sometimes is more than just the tree pruning would be property owner, but if there's notification we need to send out, Kathy and I are working on, I'm going to be proposing some code changes that involve notification of tenants for certain things in the village, including when
right.
application comes before the planning board.
Mm.
That, not just the property owner, but the people who live next door, if they're not, should get it.
Good, good.
And
So we realized
Ryan-
that all we can do is we simply just can mark it on the municipality and just send it out to current resident. We
Right.
have all the valid addresses,
Mhm.
and if people don't open their mail, then there's only so much we can do.
Right.
And
So
it's
that could
also-
sidestep that, like have a
Yeah.
whole other category.
Good, yeah.
Like mark that, like all the water bills notices are only for property owner only information. Any
Right,
other
we
water
could
system
use
stuff.
our like rental property, registered rentals list. As
Yeah,
for this,
and
okay.
we can basically set up sort of like an automatic mailing
And-
list.
and
Send it
I
to
really
Cornerstone
think-
or whatever.
After we get this done, we ought to talk about a complaint board within the landlord-tenant committee. Where if a tenant feels that they are not being fairly billed, can go.
I don't know if that.
I don't know if
It's-
the tenant
the
and
landlord
relations
tenant-
council is going to be the place for that.
Yeah, I don't think.
Well, we can, that's,
But-
Why? I mean, both of you
Um,
agree, but why?
Well, number
Well,
one, because
the
they're
reason I
council, they're
believe is-
supposed to be just advisory, and I think that could constitute legal advice, and that could put us into.
Well, even if they're supposed to be advisory, they're supposed to
Handle
be
complaints.
a mediator, have a
Yes,
mediator
by
type
law.
role.
No, I
Yeah.
thought they weren't supposed to
No.
mediate. I thought they were supposed to just refer you.
But
We
well,
should have
no,
set it up forward. They're
they
so vague.
decided of their own accord that they were not going to be doing that because of exactly what you're saying.
that wasn't, that was their own decision.
Well,
and I'm
but
saying,
and
I
it's
think
I mean, but it makes sense because they don't have the ability to give legal advice, and they could do some mild mediation. But my concern actually had nothing to do with that. My concern was much more because I know students who will not go to the landlord-tenant relations council because those people are their landlords,
Yeah.
Okay.
and I've received.
But,
We'll talk about that when we get there.
aren't all
when
those
you
terms
when
matter
you
of contract?
when you've sold your property and you have the water turned off for a final reading, okay, before it gets turned on for the new owner,
Okay.
that has been increased from 30 to 50.
Oh, okay. Sure. Great.
Okay, and then the sewer law has been amended, and that's all here. And there was clarification made to address the confusion and the problems with characterizing water users, which in the sewer law was very strange. And that there are new rate schedules, which you'll see, and the resolution is included in your material for both. So, all I'm asking you to do is before David and Marge join us next week, that you look at these, okay? And any questions you have, get them to Jason, to
You
Nancy
or
or
Nancy.
me, and we will try to answer those. Some questions as to why the attorney worded something the way it was. I mean, I've reviewed with you the changes that are being made in, this is an amendment to our laws. Okay, so if you can do that, it'll make next week go much more expeditiously.
One thing that I want to look at, you remember early on when we were getting the complaint forms, there was a question about turning somebody's water off and so forth, and we looked into it, what the code said was you do it this way, but it wasn't being implemented that way, so I wanted to check to see if that's changed, and if it hasn't, and the water department wants to do it the same way it's doing now, then it should be changed, or else we should do it the way the law says, one or the other. So,
Well, I think we should be doing it the way the law says, but.
right, I'm just.
But those are the kinds of
a year ago,
questions,
so we'll have
those
to,
are the kinds of questions which if you raise with me, I can make a list of the ones we can answer and the ones that only David and Marge are gonna be able to answer, because I would love for us to, you know, this is a big issue, it's a very important issue for this village. We have not had a sewer and water change of rate in 8 years, right?
Yeah.
8 years.
and it's really
So,
important because we're
it's very
coming into our
important.
reserves.
Because those have to be self-sustaining, and I think the idea of implementing conservation, and if you choose not to conserve, then you pay for your choice, but those people who choose to conserve should not be penalized because you choose not to conserve.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically the intent. Did you want to add anything?
No, you covered it.
Okay.
Very interesting.
So that should, get us in something.
And I really want to commend Nancy publicly for working very, very diligently and thoroughly on this, and she caught a couple of mistakes that really were important catches, and she really gave really good service for this, so.
Sally, you wanna take this one too? COT hanging baskets.
Oh, yes, you all got the resolution from me, and I have it here somewhere. As you know, we bought the plants, and I can't find mine. Oh, here it is. Oh, here it is. We bought it because of the emergency that the town had with their finances. We bought, as a kindness and an act of friendliness to the town, we bought the seed, the plants that hang in the hanging baskets on the streets. After much discussion, and the town, really does not want to do this. I told you that the cost that in fact everybody said was gonna be like $10,000. The whole cost to do the plants, water them,
Who waters them?
hang them, the town right now.
Well, I'm saying who's gonna water them for us? And
One,
that's-
a seasonal employee.
Okay.
I'm not gonna, anyway, cost, so we allocated $3,500, and the reason I'm asking for it now is because, depending upon our vote, the baskets have to be ordered now. You order them in September for the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So if we agree to this and approve of it, we just have to remind ourselves that come budget time, we have to up the CIT budget by $3,500. It is our hope that the town will do the holiday decorations, so we're trading.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna do the flower baskets and the town's gonna do the
I'm
holiday.
more than happy to do this, but I have maybe just two stipulations. One is, what are these baskets made of that we're ordering every year? Are they plastic? Are they
No.
reusable? Is there what is
There's
there?
some sort of recycled material, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, and what happens to the basket itself?
They reuse.
They reuse them.
They
Okay,
reuse.
that's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted to
And
make
like
sure.
When
that-
they get,
And what we're purchasing is the flowers and the soil.
And the
Unless
watering
they're
and the
destroyed
oil.
by the
Yeah.
weather or something.
Okay.
'cause they're
the
hanging
baskets,
Right.
I mean, when you realize what we paid for the baskets, I think the baskets we got, it cost us $600 and they hang them. We don't have to worry about a bucket truck.
I love all of
Okay.
this. My stipulations are not really contingent on whether or not I approve this. I just there are things that I feel like we can, just add. Another one is bee friendly flowers, because bees are they're becoming more and more endangered, and they're disappearing. So I would like flowers that are good for bees. And if we could, I mean, I don't know, it would be great if we could get something that we don't have to plant every year, that maybe the campus greenhouse would house for us throughout the semester. There's somebody that that's paid to take care of it. It used to be Joe Rotolo, our shade tree guy. But so like maybe there's a way that maybe not this year, but in future years we can start looking into that type of thing, since the campus wants to collaborate with us so much. So
And they have a greenhouse.
they
don't
do have a greenhouse, yeah.
So we might be able to think
so
of
we
a
can,
way.
yeah, or we can. I mean, and it wouldn't mean that we would never buy new flowers. It would mean that we can start to cut this cost and have more collaboration
So,
and little things.
The motion will be that we will agree to assume the responsibility of the summer hanging basket project, which is done by the community improvement team, beginning the budget year 2013 at a cost not to exceed $3,500, and will work with the CIT to continue this community project, and we would request bee-friendly flowers.
Cool, thanks.
But it's
That's
not,
the motion.
but it's not contingent upon getting it, because, but it's, I mean,
We
you're
would
gonna,
request
you're gonna
it,
attempt it, because the people who pick them choose these plants because they can take a beating over the summer, and I don't know.
But I
if
think
that's
Ariana
mutually
brings up a
exclusive.
very good
I mean,
point,
it's-
and I
it's
see
worth
nothing
looking
wrong
into.
with.
No, as long as it's not contingent upon, I agree with you. With the request, which is
But I
not
want it
required.
as a part of
You
the
have a
motion
motion?
so that we indicate.
Right, yeah,
Has it been seconded?
exactly.
Second.
No,
Second.
you made the
No, I
motion.
know.
Second.
Second.
Oh, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? No?
Okay, so we just have to remember to put it in the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't
Thank
think
you,
we-
everybody.
I somehow don't think we'll.
And,
With how long
and the
we've talked
community
about it
improvement
for-
team, thank you.
Yeah, they'll remind us, of course.
Okay,
So there's no documentation for the last three.
for which
Zero.
one?
Number 7, we got. Didn't we
Seven,
get
yeah,
2
in the
things on the
packet.
table?
Well, I haven't read
Yes.
the table. I don't read things in the table on purpose.
We don't have it.
I know, Stuart gave it tonight.
No, actually,
No,
I
I,
had nothing to do with giving
this-
it what you got tonight.
I
I-
need to get it from Susan. because
I put it on there because this has been around for a long time, and supposedly when we were gonna deal with it, but then the town changed it, we were supposed to rush out and get one from the town, and I just wanted to make sure
This
this
is
is moving along.
I
If this
know.
just came from the
I'm just-
town, then we can take it next time or something,
Right.
I just don't want it to get bogged down.
Can
that's
we
all.
get
So-
the intermunicipal agreement
can
that
I
has
give-
been approved by the town?
Actually-
I don't believe it has been approved by the town.
That's,
Oh,
see,
I
that's
thought
what
that-
I thought,
I
Brian.
thought they said they did.
Unless they did it at the very last meeting, I don't believe it has.
They
and I think
tabled it.
And I think the issue, as far as I recall, is that we decided to do this continuously, and they decided that, or there was discussion, I don't know if they finally approved it, that they want to do it on a year-to-year basis.
Right, that's
It's
exactly.
my
So
information.
they might have approved it and then said, but year to year.
What was proposed initially, because I drafted it, because they asked me to, I was the liaison, what was proposed was to have it more than 1 year, that it would be continuous unless, and there was a way that either municipality could give it a notice and say, we're out of it, we don't want to do it anymore. So that they wouldn't have to come
Fight
out and
over
beat this
public
to death
access,
every
yeah.
year. But the town, when it went to, I think their attorney, according to the supervisor, said, well, they wanted all of their contracts to be for no more than 1 year.
Right.
And I thought they said that they passed it with that change.
So maybe they
Now, I
did,
haven't
maybe they
seen
did.
it, but that's
I'm-
what I've been told.
yeah.
And so I guess our choice is to get it that way and pass it that way also, or go back to them and say, we think it should be longer, or if you have any other questions about it.
Or we could just pass the multi-year one and be done with it.
Correct. If you want to pick the 1 year that they already did, then it's done.
I mean, I really like the spirit of removing public access from the fray, because I just think it's a very important aspect of our government, and it allows, people from home to be involved without having to be here. But I don't know if the town's going to change their position on it.
Well, I don't think we even need the intermunicipal agreement because we have already approved the contract on behalf of the village with Bob Fagan.
Well, it's,
And we also approved the contract.
But the intermunicipal
Right.
agreement does more than that. It covers
Right.
how the program is gonna be run and what each responsibilities are, as opposed to just the contract.
The contract
with
with
the
the
vendor
videographer.
only. You know?
No, but my point is, if we want, because I agree with Brian, I think
It should just.
it should
Right.
just go, and we, should have a standard protocol, if you will, of what we'll do and they'll do.
Right.
And it doesn't need to be sealed in cement with a fiscal year attached. Because it doesn't involve money. We've already done the monetary, budgetary part.
And-
This is just how well we're gonna play together.
And the initial
Right.
agreement, based on what they asked me, what they wanted in there was,
Right.
it said what the, that the coordinator on the least behalf of the coordinator, and it says, and the current contract of the coordinator is attached. And and the current salary is this, and so it was clear, and that the municipalities would agree to carry that forward every year unless they agreed not to, or one of the municipalities said to the others, we're not playing anymore, here's 7 months notice, we're out.
Right.
And so that seemed to be what they wanted, but somehow that came out about attaching the contract and the amount, which wasn't logical to me, but I don't know why they did
So what
that.
would you like us to do? Would you like us to
Well,
vote on the intermunicipal contract as you presented it?
No, I think we should do one of two things. I mean, I don't see there's a big problem approving the way it is, but it'll be, you're gonna do this every year. The other option is to say, we're willing to do this, but we wish you would make it for longer.
Right.
And I think those are your two choices, unless you wanna fight about the language otherwise, which
You wanna
I doubt you
communicate
do.
with the
No.
supervisor and see where we are on this?
No, I think whoever's the public access committee needs them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you should, whenever you have something ready, that's
Right.
bring it to us.
I mean,
I assume you and Don and Bob are all sorting this out already.
we discussed it at the last meeting, right? And now that Stuart says that they may have just approved it as year to year, but I mean, it kind of weakens the spirit of it. But we could just attach it to our reorg meeting and just approve it, as an annual
Well, that's
thing
an
every
idea.
year. Just as a formality. It's not the same. I don't really like it as much, but it's really up to us because I don't know if we.
Well, that's
you
not
know-
what's best. I mean, what's
Well, I think
should
just
we do
because I don't know if we can have two separate agreements where ours
well,
is
it's not an agreement.
right. So
I mean, the whole point is to have an
I mean, that's what we
intermunicipal
already have
agreement.
done,
We're
two
going to do.
separate.
right. So
No,
I
it's
mean,
not.
so does the board have a preference? Because I mean, I would be happy to go back to the public access committee and even go to the town board if everyone feels that they want me to try to negotiate on that behalf. I'd be
And-
happy
I don't
to
have a
do.
strong opinion. Whatever the committee wants, I'm happy to support.
I mean,
Okay.
the committee wants it to be longer,
Right.
and I think at the moment, and I don't know, I spoke briefly with Joe Moriello about that because I was speaking to him about other things, and I don't think that's necessarily set in stone and has to be only 1 year. But
I'm in favor
that's
of
what
it, as long as
the
you-
town is taking his recommendation to make it a 1 year contract.
Okay.
And if there's a way it could be longer and he would agree to that, then I don't think I think at least that's why they said they're not doing it the other way.
Okay. So
As long as we can get.
okay, as long as we can get.
And if we can't, then I like your idea at the reorg meeting.
Okay.
And it's
I'm
set up
willing
so
to
that
do
you
that
can get
too.
out of it on a 7-month notice.
Okay.
So it's not like it's for perpetuity.
Okay.
So I'll give you guys a report, and we'll
Alright.
figure it
So we
out.
don't need to take any action. Just
No,
checking
Mhm.
in.
that's why I put it on here, just so.
Okay, great. Thank you. Village Hall landscaping.
I think that's
Who-
Sally's, I think.
Where are you?
Or that's both of us.
8.
That's the
We didn't
business
get
where,
any reports.
wasn't that the
What's
one
that?
where the CIT said they wanted to
Yeah.
just have, put
Grass.
grass in there and DPW takes care of it at the end, wasn't it?
Right, but
Or
that
was it-
hasn't come as a recommendation. That's being reviewed by Kurt right
Oh,
now.
Oh, okay, well. yeah.
That goes on next.
Next-
And what
Next.
about, food melt lawns obviously didn't happen and couldn't happen this year, and then the ENCC does what Bike Ped does where they take the summer, and TIC where they take the summer off. So this month they're having a meeting again, but I know that they want to do that. And the chair went and talked to the CIT, and he said that he was taken aback by how many comments they had, but that a lot of them were very useful, and they wanted to incorporate that and actually, work on this as a plan for.
Well, then I
this
think
coming year.
ENCC ought to make overtures to meet with the CIT and come
Well,
up
they
with a
did.
compromise.
I was there at the meeting when the chairman was there, and he presented a great presentation, and the CIT people have, have several master gardeners there, and it was a friendly meeting, but this won't work because of this and this and this and this, and they gave him a list, and he left, and that was the last I heard of it. So I don't know if he's still looking into that or what he's doing.
Last I talked to David, he was looking for private front yards to do it. That way, just less permission. You don't really need to do it anybody. But I don't know. That was wild. That was weeks ago.
That's the real idea behind it anyway. The real idea behind it is not Village Hall.
I think
the real
more
idea
48
is that
volunteers.
Village Hall is supposed to be setting the precedence and being, the leader in all of this, and having the municipal property do it too, and then we can donate our vegetables to the family of New Paltz while other people can keep their
The
vegetables.
real problem with that is maintenance.
Yeah.
And
I know, well that's why when I said to them,
and
a lot
I
of them,
believe, and I think the CIT absolutely believes, the simpler, the better, so that we always look neat and tidy, which we don't look.
I know, but if we don't look that way now, why can't we do something cooler and then still not look neat and tidy?
I think
Because we can have fun and be a mess.
I want you to explain the logic of that to me.
I think there's a significant.
We don't look good now, so let's do something good and not look
I
good.
think there's a significant number of people who don't agree that,
Well, yes,
that
there's
that's
maybe not people who do.
that's the place to do that. That the municipal building. I mean, I know you don't feel that way, but there are other people who do feel like, municipal
I
buildings
understand that.
have a certain decorum and so forth.
All right.
You don't have to agree with it, but that's their opinion.
Well, anyway, so
Why don't we wait till the
I don't
recommendation?
know what Brian's saying.
I was gonna say if there's some sort of joint agreement between the two of them where we can toss in some bushes that bear fruit or whatever the case may be, and then have aesthetically pleasing to some flowers and manicured things, and have like a blend of both, or like we were talking about putting a garden somewhere within the area and just taking a piece of our grass out.
Right.
That people are willing to like upkeep and all of those things, and
That's the issue.
we have that word. Right.
Well, I think that's part of why after the CIT meeting happened, where David, when he got all these recommendations, he brought it back to the ENCC, and a lot of them were things that people were like, oh, we didn't think about that,
Right.
But then they said, well, why don't we try to spend this next period of time amassing more volunteers and building up the excitement around it, and having a real solid program, because like the New Paltz Youth Program, they want to do this. They totally are on board. The biggest thing is having somebody who works with them and supervises
I don't understand the contradiction. How does planting grass prevent a garden from going in? Because if they're waiting to plan, and it's been a while, people have been trying to get it off the ground, why don't we just do what the CIT is asking, and then if someone comes up with a great plan that's better than that,
I just don't want us to spend time and energy and resources on something that's going to change in the near future. Just grass is just grass. I mean, if it doesn't take a whole lot of our time and resources to plant it, and winter's coming, it's not really, it's kind of moot point anyway.
The point is that what we have now is not being maintained properly, and how much time do we expect village employees to expend maintaining? And they all agree that that is not their area of expertise. So that is why the CIT is recommending grass everywhere. But as Jason said, that doesn't preclude in the future something else.
And the CIT had a long list of things on the property here that they suggested would be done. So I mean, I think everybody has that.
And Kurt has that plan which he is looking at.
I mean, not for nothing, the ENCC is like an official village agency. Like
doesn't
in
mean
our
they get
code.
control over the buildings and grounds.
No, of course
Or
not.
years
But
to
in
come up with
terms
a
of
project.
things that we want people to collaborate on,
No, the ENC.
I think like we
is
should
not
get them to
replace
collaborate
the
on it.
community improvement.
Oh no, by no means would they ever. The role is completely different.
Right.
I don't think that they would replace. I'm saying, but like we should, encourage and give and have them work together on this. And I think it's kind of a moot point since winter's coming. We're going to
Sounds like they can't work together.
Well, I don't
think
know.
that's true. We only had one meeting.
I don't know if the CIT is
And David
opposed
was
to the
very-
concept. I
very
think they're opposed to the
amenable to
concept
the idea.
in front of Village Hall. I think, that's the issue.
And maybe it won't be in front of Village Hall, but they could still help with the plan and the idea and give good advice because they have a lot more knowledge.
I'm sure they're willing to do that if you
Yeah.
Right, like some plantings in Peace Park or like around the edge or whatever it has to be. I mean, even if they're, I don't see a reason, like you said, to put grass in now. But if next year they say, oh, we have these bushes. I mean, it also doesn't have to be a vegetable garden. It can be like
Fruit-bearing bushes.
fruit-bearing bushes and things like that, and whatever. And then you know what? Even if we put grass in the spring, and then they want to cut out sections here and there, wherever. I mean, the right out front, you don't want
Best
giant
time to
bushes
do
in there.
grass is in the fall.
Really?
Yeah, best time to see it.
Oh boy, I'm in trouble.
We'll have the recommendation from the CIT or from Kurt, I guess, soon.
Okay.
I'm guessing. I'm asking.
I'll
I
answer.
mean, I was under the impression that the best time to seed is not right now. The best time to seed is right now, but I'm not.
Fall.
And that makes it different.
Yeah. So maybe we'll just. How much can seed cost to just toss
Exactly.
some seed down? That is very.
Well, that's
$50
more to it than that. Putting in the
No,
lawn, I
cheap
can
stuff.
tell you. You're really putting in the lawn.
And they are the CIT is checking with the VFW, right? About the
yeah.
flowers around the monuments which aren't being maintained.
Or just how to spiff up those
Well,
monuments.
Yeah.
they may prefer not to want to spiff them up. And
Well, so that you can see them and things.
Right, they
So
need to
give
be
them the
weeded.
respect
I
they should
think
have.
this is the kind of thing that Team New Paltz can take on.
New
I
Paltz.
think you
We
can.
could have weeding parties.
all right, I'll find out what CIT wants to do.
Number 9, Stuart. I assume this is you.
Yeah, I put the quarterly reports on there because we passed those, and Sally did some, I did some, and
That's
nobody
it,
else
yeah.
has done them. So I don't know if that's just rejecting them quietly or what, but
No, we organized it.
I will say that several of the things I was liaison to, it proved to be quite helpful because I would say to them, well, what do you want me to say in my quarterly report? And they came up with things, and they were hopeful that the board would read these and know what was going on. So I see value in it, but if nobody
The vehicle
plans
map.
on doing it, then maybe we should do away with
But
it.
maybe it's a good idea in the wrong vehicle. We can.
Okay,
We're
well-
experimenting. So what? It's a matter of like.
Well, actually, can
what else? I mean, can we-
I?
is there a
I would
better way
love
to
to
get
know how
information?
to be written and to give a verbal
Can
committee
That's what
report.
used to happen.
Let
Yeah.
me just, before you say, let
Okay.
me just say, initially, the quarterly report is a form, and has about
That's
4
right.
lines on it, and you could fill it out in 2 minutes.
Okay.
The ones that I submitted, I attached a lot of things to them, but you don't have to do that.
You're very
Just
thorough.
what meetings did you go to, what did you wouldn't have to spend days doing
I mean,
it.
I don't have a fillable out, like a form that's fillable.
I
Well,
have
there
a
is one, I can give you
suggestion.
one. We
The
passed
mayor
it.
is
Figure out
trying
how
to
to do that.
institute monthly reports by department heads. I believe each of us should also do a monthly report with our liaisons.
Yeah.
Each volunteer board has to do. The chair has to file it. Or
No,
we
the
vote on it?
liaison, the
does.
liaison has to
So the
file.
ENCC report, the housing board report, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it goes in our monthly report that we do, you're doing one, Nancy's doing one, Kurt's doing one, I think
Yeah.
each of us,
Not
that
a
would be
report
very
on
easy.
each liaisonship, but basically a trustee report.
Trustee.
Oh,
a mayor
is that what
report.
you're saying? Okay.
Something that logs what we're working on.
Right.
The same way that
And I
they're
think
logging
that
that they're working
that's
Very
on.
good.
only fair, and it sets a very good example for our department heads, and encourages the mayor to do it too, because he started it, and I think we ought to support it.
Okay. I came up with this proposal. I haven't presented it to you yet because it was just an idea that came up this week. But I was thinking we do these informational meetings. So, like, when I talked to Stuart about it, he said maybe a quarterly type thing. But kind of based on the Parliament model where you do like the information hour, or the question hour, but not exactly. And we could have our department heads here, and we can have all the trustees here, and we can each give a 5-minute verbal report. And it also kind of does like the state of the village thing, but it's on a, hey Don. It also does like a state of the village thing. So each trustee, the mayor, and all the department heads can each give a 5-minute report, and there'll be an opportunity for each of us to ask questions. And then we can have a very brief, like we would obviously have to keep it very structured, because there's 4 department heads, and then the 5 of us is 9 times that by 5, you have 45, so it's 45 minutes tossing questions. So it could be like a 2-hour thing, but it would be an opportunity for the village to hear any of our ideas, any reports we want to toss out there.
Yes.
Love it.
You like it?
Yeah, but we
Yeah,
have to
let's do it.
substitute
Can't do
one
it
of
every
our
month,
workshop
but-
meetings for that.
Yes.
Brian's
Yes.
up quarterly.
Yeah.
So I was thinking quarterly. I was thinking once a month, but Stuart made the point that our workshop meetings can be very important and they can be very beneficial to all of us. So if we institute it as maybe a quarterly thing, and
Which
then
would be the workshop meeting.
which would be the
for that.
workshop meeting of each quarter,
Right, exactly.
and then I think it'd be nice. I think it'd be like a little switch up, and it would give each of us an opportunity to talk about the projects we like and the things we want to
And they can talk
implement.
about their.
And they can talk about their projects or what's going on in the department. Blue can be
What do you
here.
think?
We can hash things out.
They're gonna hate it.
They are gonna hate it.
They all hate it on TV.
They're gonna hate it.
They hate
Yeah,
it.
because it's bringing them out at night.
Yeah,
this
but-
works through.
Huh?
I think that this is a great idea.
Four
It'll
times a year
create
isn't
so
gonna
much
kill anybody.
transparency.
Right. Yeah. It really opens things up. I can make a
Yeah,
more
you'd
formal
have to make
proposal.
it volunteer.
Alright, so we're wandering off topic. Now, so you're gonna have a proposal for this?
I was
soon?
planning on bringing out a proposal for this within the next 2 weeks, so maybe I can get it on the next
sometime in the next couple
agenda.
meetings. So,
Yeah,
Okay.
Great, perfect. Because
and then we could talk about doing the reports and whatever else.
Yeah.
We can do that.
I mean, is there any other?
I think I think that that's something that we should do, as well as what Sally was saying with these
The
proposals.
monthly as well.
I think we should do it.
And I think it'll, if we could just create a bullet list like that, like what we get sent, that would be great. I actually, while we're on this topic, have been thinking about the monthly reports, and I really think that the DPW should be weekly as well, because there's so much going on in the week to week. It's the same level of action as the building department, in my opinion. And I would imagine that if you're logging all the things you're doing, you're logging it regularly. So there should be no reason why we couldn't receive that once a week as well, unless they're waiting until the end of the month to log everything. But I just don't.
I think
imagine
what
that
it
would
is
be
they
accurate.
end up doing a lot of routine stuff every week, like the same stuff week after week after week.
That's okay.
So,
But it takes time, Ariana, and we talked about this in personnel, and both Blue and Nancy felt that for what they had to report monthly was, and I think we concurred with that, because
Well, I
You mean instead of weekly?
instead of weekly, the
Well,
building
it had more to do
department
with
has.
the rate of deadlines, I think.
Yeah, presumably
It takes-
the mayor's speaking to them more frequently than anyway.
daily.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think that we should operate all the departments under the same standard personally. And this is being from outside the personnel committee. So, I don't see as much of the day-to-day stuff as you do, or possibly you do, but I think that it's fair, and I think that it, because I'm working 9 to 5 now. I really can't make it down here during the day. It's hard for me to,
Right.
speak to people during the day. At least this would give me a little bit more of an idea as to like what's going on and.
Well, the other thing is that the way we're doing it now is all stopgap measure, because like we're going to be analyzing the technology group, all the new tools that come with our software. So there's going to be a lot more online collaboration.
It's gonna be different.
So basically all these reports, as well as all of our forms and files and bill pay over the next few months, will be integrated in the website as we figure it out. But then it'll be all shared docs. So when a local proposal is posted, the local doc, like Google Docs, but with more elaborate features.
Right.
So we're all literally on the same page, and that might be good because you have internal basically message boards.
Right.
So we could keep like and it's accessible through a website, so it's all the same layout every time you check it. So just as things get updated by users, it's all, so things like that is where we're headed. But for now, if I'll talk to Blue about what changes, between a week and a month, if it'd be having that much more information.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe the monthly reports and the weekly reports are a management tool. I think it is something we can make suggestions to the mayor about, but I think this is his call. He is the manager on a day-to-day basis. I'm just trying to figure out a way that we can fit into this so that we're all in a scope together. I don't think we should be doing weekly. I think monthly. And is yours at the end of the month or the beginning? Your monthly report, when you do it.
I haven't made one.
Yes, you did one.
Did you?
You did actually did two.
I can't remember.
And
So,
huh?
I don't think so. You may be confusing me.
I
No,
don't
I'm not.
think so because I don't recall.
I've never written. I don't remember writing
And
one.
I think you remember writing it.
Yeah. Because the department head reports
Really?
basically
Well-
hit everything that happens. There's
Yeah.
almost nothing that's
Okay,
not in
then
them
if
that
you
I
aren't
do.
doing it, guess what?
Someone just hacking and sending mayor updates.
You're gonna
boy.
do it. And we'll do it too.
Yeah, that's fine.
But end of month seems to me more
How about we do
logical
this in terms
because
of the-
then we've had our
How about in
late
terms of
meetings.
the vehicle for all this stuff, because it's already 10 something. Why don't we just put both of these things in these rules and probably take out the quarterly reports? I mean, that's the way to park this stuff. That's where you park this stuff. Now we have
It's a
actual
better way
language
to do it
it.
as long as we do something.
No, it's what
Right,
it sounds
yeah.
like provides the quarterly report part of our rules into this new monthly and just what would be in it, the expectations.
But
And
I-
Brian has the, what was the other policy?
The,
The information.
Oh, the informational.
and I
yeah.
think that's kind of different, but I think that has a lot of potential, and how frequently you do it, you can discuss, but I think that would be a good thing.
Well, but I think
That could be a
that,
rules change, so it's in that one document, so successive
Yeah,
boards still see it.
Okay.
I think we have to be careful there. We can ask people to come, but they can refuse to come.
No.
Because it's not.
No, not at all.
Employee.
No, completely not. They're salaried employees, and they are, a huge information base. And I think it would be very beneficial to have them here and hash certain things out.
I'm not
And-
arguing the benefit of it. I'm saying that if people are employed to work a certain number of hours a day, a certain number of hours a week on
Okay.
terms
that's-
and conditions
So
of
how about we comp
employment.
them for the
But
2 hours?
Wait a
that-
minute,
But they're
wait a minute.
salary.
Are they? They're
Doesn't
management.
matter.
Right, they're management, yeah. You call them
work all
into a
night
meeting and they
together.
gotta be here for a meeting, definitely.
They could ask you to come to a meeting and you better get yourself there too,
No.
and you don't.
That's not how
And I
it
don't.
works. That's not how it
Yes,
works.
it is how it works.
They're not my boss.
Well, how about if we ask them to come here and we have a 2-hour meeting, we allow them to come in 2 hours later the next day or whatever it is.
What
But I don't
I don't have a
see
problem
that.
with that. I don't,
No, I
I
completely
don't have a
don't see
problem with
that.
any of this.
Right.
I'm trying to find the best way for us
We
to
don't
make
even
it.
have a proposal yet, and we're already arguing
Yeah.
about
No,
implementation.
but
So
I-
maybe
We're
we
not
should have-
arguing.
What?
Maybe we
We're
can
just-
have it. Can we get it in writing on an agenda so we?
We're not arguing. Are we arguing?
Well, yeah.
It's gonna
we're,
look.
we're finding the path to compromise.
Yes.
That's
Well,
all.
let's find it at another subsequent meeting.
I'll make a
Don-
proposal the next
Don
meeting.
is
So Don is
fine.
here. Maybe did you
Yeah, I
see
was
something on
here,
public
let's go.
access that you
I
wanted
was
to?
watching on Channel 23 and I wondered, is it true you have Little Debbie donuts?
One left.
I knew
One
that's
left.
why you came. You were listening.
Can you speak to? Did the town pass it? They did pass it, right? Do we
Yeah,
know?
I went to the town board meeting a week or two ago, and they did pass the IMA with the provision that it would be passed annually at the reorg meeting. So that is the way they passed it.
Okay.
And they're comfortable with that, and I guess I wanted to recommend it if you all can live with it, and I heard the discussion you had. I think the Public Access Committee can live with that too.
Yeah.
So what do you mean?
Basically, you're the folks that wanted it to
And
be
then
longer, so we
annually.
didn't have to get into it.
Yeah, we could- I think-
I guess you gotta do what
Yeah.
you gotta do, right?
Well, I think taking it
okay.
off the reorg agenda would be an act that could engender public comment and we could speak to. So as long as it's on there and it has to be removed publicly,
Yeah.
I think we're okay.
So do we have to amend
this IMA for ourselves to.
I think you need to get the one that's actually adopted by the town.
Okay.
You know, you don't have to.
So at the next one we'll pass it.
Iterations of it.
Okay.
And I can also, one more public access thing. Dave Lent, who was representing the town on the committee for many, many years, is going to be resigning. He's served, I think, 7 years. And Dave got on the committee until the franchise agreement was renewed 7 years ago. He's been incredible in his expertise in dealing with Time Warner. It has been Dave's opinion, and I guess the committee talked about it, and we agree, and I think the town board agrees that Time Warner is not acting in good faith, and we need to sue them. They're just not acting.
Really, a lawsuit?
We still don't have the build out.
You hear that, Time Warner?
We've got no satisfaction on construction fund.
Right.
We don't have a second gen. You know, just all the things that we were to have as of January 1st of this year. You know, the goalpost keeps moving.
Right.
And the sound keeps getting softer.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, you know, Jason, your idea was actually mentioned at the town as well.
Oh yeah.
About
Nice.
the scrolling thing across
Yeah.
the bottom, and
With the home phone number of the CEO or what?
Well, it doesn't even have to be the home phone. It could just be the complaint department or whoever.
No, you management.
Well, who do we speak with over there?
One is Brenda Parks.
Brenda Parks.
Who's Brenda Parks' boss?
She's the customer relations person.
Yeah, we need the head of whoever that is.
Susan Simmons been on the phone with that person, so we saw
So look at her number.
We theorize that Time Warner may have boosted the signal a little bit because recently, past couple of weeks, especially transmissions from the village have been kind of greening out. There have been some new quality issues, and the public access coordinator is trying to play with the signal a bit to try to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore. But it's always interesting. Anyway, Channel 23 got me down here for your conversation.
That's it.
Hop in the car. And
Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, Don, for coming.
Many times.
Can we point you to anything, Don?
What's that?
Can we point you to anything while you're here?
No,
Run.
didn't get a donut.
Just
No.
take your donut, man.
Take your donut.
There's one left. I'll eat
You
it.
want me to move to
I don't know what. Hold on. What's going on? Actually, let me ask this one question. Are there any changes, questions, or concerns about 10 through 14?
I will prove that contingent, the arts community requests contingent on their insurance because we don't have the insurance here.
Okay. Other than that, could I make a motion to adopt all 5 items with that caveat, or is there another, or should we do it one at a time?
Oh, I had one question. I would be willing to do all that, but the number 13,
Yeah.
the document we received, describing the situation, I guess. I forget what the actual.
Clarification notes?
Clarificate. Who wrote that? It's like not.
Sorry,
It's
mine's out of order also.
13.1. Who wrote that?
Probably Heather.
Why?
Blue sends his on top of the.
Right, he sends his unofficial letterhead, so I assume that it was, you know. And I would think someone from
Or Nick, maybe.
the water
Blue's
plant.
out.
I mean,
Yeah, Blue's out. Was Blue out last week?
He was out at least one day. He was very sick.
It might have just been just not knowing where the memo or that they got on letterhead. So I mean, do you? Is there some of the information that seems shady, or just? Like
no,
you're
it's
just curious?
not a huge thing, but you know, I was reading it and I was like,
No, you're right.
Who is this from? What's you know? Especially because the next document is just the application with FEMA, and then I was like, well, was it written by FEMA? Was
Well, I'll
it
mention it
written
to Blue to make sure it goes out on the memo.
Yeah.
But also, that's another thing we're going to be dealing with, and all the kind of the new thing, getting centralized styles and fonts and everything templated. So just hit the whenever you make certain documents, it'll spell it out.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to do some what do they call those, like writable PDFs.
Yeah, those we'll be having, and everything the same font and layout and
I
programs
just
and
have a
all
question of
things.
clarification.
Yeah.
Am I authorizing to pay the bill and then apply for a grant to get some of it back? Am I applying for the grant? What am I paying for? Because it's a proposal and invoice for the generator.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a reimbursement, I believe.
So we're looking for reimbursement,
Let me read
but we
this.
may
I
not
read
get
it.
it.
And it's saying we're shy on, we're not gonna get certain monies too. We're losing 10,000. And this.
Actually, I think we're not. Oh man, that one I should have.
Would it be possible to hold this off, find out like where it came from, and get a little more of an explanation?
Yeah, you know.
There may be a deadline
There
on
might
this.
be, that's what I'm trying to remember. Oh, it doesn't say that there's a, no, it doesn't say that we're short the money. It just says
No.
the bids came in with a spread.
My only question, Jason, is, am I guaranteed this, or is this a maybe?
We are, no, it's a FEMA guarantee. This is the paperwork we have to file to get reimbursed for the money we already laid out from the sewer fund to replace the generator.
So
That's
I'll-
what this was.
It just-
I apologize.
So I will
I'm
move it.
Yes, and All second it.
So that's separate than bundling.
I think,
Yeah, just-
I think because it's a grant, we ought to do it separately.
Okay.
Alright, so at least we have the motion on the table now. Now, are there any other concerns or questions? Brian, is that a lethal, not lethal, what's the word?
Stick.
Is that enough of a concern you'd rather not vote on it?
Deal killer.
Deal killer? Whatever it is. I mean, it's, from what, look, my understanding is it's just filing the paperwork with FEMA to get our money.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
That's what
I might just, you know, vote nay, but if everyone else is gonna vote yay, then you don't need me.
Well, we'll be in a problem if we all vote no and there's a deadline. So is there anyone else who's concerned? I'd rather hear them and try to meet them before we vote.
Right. I mean,
You know, I don't really. I just, you know, I wanted to make sure this was what I thought it was, and I guess it sounds like it is.
Yeah. We're still dealing with
A sub-grant application.
Stuart, any concerns?
No, if that's
Okay.
what's recommended, I'll vote for it.
So the motion's on the table, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
aye.
Okay.
5 ayes, Katie.
Yes, ma'am.
Alright.
There's a mumble aye.
Now with, I'll move we approve bills and claims.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move we approve the parade, event request, with Sally's caveat.
Pending insurance.
Yeah, paying insurance, thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did that, and, I'll move to adopt approve the village board minutes.
I'll second, but I have an edit. On the first page, it says, residents will need to take their chickens to a professional who can humanly slaughter them. It's supposed to be humanely.
Oh, no, it's not.
I just felt like that was a little bit important.
Okay. The adjustment can be made, not a problem.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's just-
Kelly to.
It's also on page 3, there's something about raining chickens.
We could do number 10.
REIT or RAIN?
Rain like,
Like fall from the sky.
Yeah.
Wait, where?
Actually, while you guys poke for that, I did skip one. I'd like to move to approve payment to Merit Construction as requested by our engineer.
Second.
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So I crossed that one out.
Do we have a motion on the minutes?
I'm waiting on Ariane and Stuart. I thought we were gonna do this ahead of time, but only if there's
yeah, there's just
grammar and spelling?
Yeah, it's just.
Sorry.
Okay. So I'd like to move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move
Alright.
to executive session. Are we up for it?
I mean, I think there's one thing that we should talk about.
Okay. So,
Yeah, let's
is
do
there a second?
it.
What our reason would be? Should I do the reason?
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can be brief if we'll make it that way.
All right.
Oh, I am prepared to, my dear.